guys. I am so sorry for the delay. I totally forgot until just when I got ready to do this stream and hit start streaming that Steve put us in a new switch on our network. And I think it messed up some settings in OBS. So I'm going to have to share this with him. I had to get into the advanced settings and change over the IP address because I'm guessing it had um, the old IP address from some of Steve's stuff. I don't really know. So I switched it over to fiber and it seems to be working now. Uh, but I hope everybody can see me. I hope everybody can hear me. Um, X-ray, my network doesn't have OBS, it has IBS, it has something. So just, a word of caution if you guys change anything on your network and you do live streams and you use OBS or, I guess one of the other live streaming services like maybe even StreamYard. If you change anything on your network, especially a switch, it's liable to cause havoc. So, like I said, I'm going to have to share that information with Steve a little bit. Um, yeah, right, TJ. It's Monday. Shit happens. That is right. Um, hey, Dirk, X-ray, John, TJ. I don't want to miss anybody here. I think Craig was in here. Jay. Yeah. And thank you, Texas, for calling me the horror queen. I don't really feel like I am. It it seems like, again, I'm not jealous at all that Dead Pit has other people or other women on their show. It's their show. They can have anybody they want. But I feel sad sometimes because I think, and I don't want to piss CK or Uncle Bill off, but I just, and again, I don't want to say too much, and I don't want to say it in the wrong way because I really don't want to make anybody mad. But I just feel like, because CK wants to have, you know, people on that are going to get more viewers for them. I get that. It's a business thing. I totally get that. Um, but I also feel like sometimes people are chosen, they're like the flavor of the month, and this is not CK's fault. It's just like that's the way it seems. It's like, and these people will be on there for a while until somebody else more popular comes along. And I'm not saying that this particular woman or person is really riding on the coattails of anybody because I don't know. I don't know what their relationship with the other person that I think has assisted in getting them on the Dead Pit videos. But I see this with a lot of different people. It's not just Dead Pit. It's not just one or two more. It's a lot of people. A lot of people that consider what they're doing a business. They need to constantly keep up with whoever or whatever is popular in order to keep driving viewers to their videos or their site or whatever. And like I said, Dead Pit or whoever can have whomever they want on there. And it's not a jealousy thing. I'm not a bit jealous. I'm doing my own thing. But I guess I don't fully understand the flavor of the month thing. Um, and you know, it doesn't really give the little guy a chance. Um, Really, if all these different live streamers or podcasters or whatever just constantly, oh, who's popular, who's popular, who's popular, let's get them on, let's get them on. Because how is the little guy ever going to have, even medium success, if they're constantly getting bypassed by more popular people that have just had the luck to either get noticed by somebody that's already ultra popular, um, or they've just, like, I don't know, maybe they've worked really hard. And um, I don't want to say this because I'm never going to give out prizes or anything, but I see a lot of people that do live streams offering to give prizes for people, um, in order to get more subscribers. And I'm like, again, I want to do it. Was it Frank Sinatra who was it that said, I want to do it my way, or I'll do it my way. Well, that's how I am. I want to do it my way. I don't want to do it like everybody else is doing it. And I don't want to get popular because somebody that's already ultra popular has picked me out of the millions and millions of live streamers out there, and said, oh, this person has got something, but this person over here doesn't have anything. And I'm not just speaking for me, I'm speaking for a lot of small time, live streamers. Uh, John, you say I use OBS to rip VHS, works well. Yeah, whatever you want to use it for, I think that's cool. Uh, Thank you, Texas. You say stop that, you rock. Um, Texas, you say, look, you're fine. They have decent people on their show. I've seen other shows where a bunch of know nothing yahoos do 8-hour shows. I can't deal with that. Yeah, I can't either. Um, Darkies, I resemble that statement, Tex. Um, Texas, you say, that's funny. I just got a huge Etsy box today with an autographed Dana photo. uh, Darky say, I'm a know nothing outcast of the outcast and I own it. LOL. Jay, you say, Dana, don't sweat it. John, you say, it's hard to break into YouTube. You got to invest in equipment, production, editing, etc. It's tough. Knowing Rainbow Rap is awesome and basic makes me hopeful. I can do it. Okay, LOL. And John, I'm glad you brought up Rainbow Rap because Rainbow Rap is actually the exception to the rule. You don't see that a lot. I really am impressed by what Rainbow Rap has been able to do with, he doesn't have fancy setups and fancy microphones and fancy cameras and all that stuff, but he gets viewers. But sadly, I wish that he was not the exception to the rule. I wish that more people that, didn't have all the bells and whistles and stuff. I've gotten things over time. I've got my green screen. It's not the most expensive green screen in the world. I just got new green filters to put on my light, which I think is helping my green screen look a little better. I mean, it's not perfect, but I'm still working on it. I just am not at a point where I can buy all that expensive gear, and I'm not really sure that I would want to do that because I kind of like I kind of like my setup now. I've got these cool pictures that I'm able to get off of Shutterstock, and I've got my green screen set up. I've got my lighting pretty well the way I want it. I've got myself a streaming camera that didn't cost me out the butt. I'm pretty happy with the setup. And like I said, Rainbow Rap, he's the exception to the rule. His setup is minimal, but he gets viewers and he is entertaining and all of that. And you got to be entertaining. That's a huge part of it. And I'm not trying to say poor me, but I don't really feel like that I'm entertaining. I just get on here and ramble for about 2 or so hours, and then I'm off. I just do these. It's pretty much a hobby for me right now. It's not a business venture. Um, so, I'm not looking to like get rich doing this. Like I said, it's a hobby. I enjoy coming on here and hanging out with you guys for a couple hours or so. Um, and that's all at this point, that's all I'm really looking for. Uh, let's see. TJ, you say, I think you're cool, Dana, whatever that's worth. Well, I appreciate that, TJ. It's worth a lot to me. It might not be, worth as much to some of the bigger people. I'm not going to speak for them, but it really, really means a lot to me. And, guys, I'm not really, saying this stuff to get nuggets of appreciation or anybody to kiss my ass or anything like that. Like I've said before, I have zero self esteem. It's not just low self esteem, it's zero. So it's amazing that I can even get on here and be on camera without just feeling completely inadequate and feeling foolish and stuff like that. There was a time where I didn't even want to be on video at all. And, I'm still not happy with, the way I look or the way my hair is. My body image is screwed. But that's not really what this is about for me. I've come to believe that it's more about the content that you're putting out there. Some chicks might look hotter than others, but, in the end, is that really what we're looking at? Or are we there to share in these interests and things like that? Actually, you say Rambo Ref has been using the same webcam for like 15 years, LOL. But again, X-Ray, he gets views, and I don't think Rambo Ref gives a shit. He likes getting on there, he likes doing his rants, and evidently other people appreciate it because they're watching. Actually, you say YouTube should be about anyone turning on a camera and just talking. People overdo it a lot these days. Yeah, I sometimes feel like I'm still stuck in middle school, or I've been time warped back to middle school where it's a popularity contest. For a lot of people, it's like, ooh, how many subscribers do I have? I'm getting more each day. I'm almost up to 300, but I'm not going to say, wow, look at me. I've almost got 300 subscribers. And it'd be the same way if I had 5,000 subscribers. I would be happy and proud that my content was getting watched by so many people. But you know what? No matter how many subscribers you have, that doesn't mean that every one of those people are watching every video you put out. Sometimes people subscribe to things and then they forget about it. I even do that. I subscribe to things and I think, oh yeah, I did. I subscribed to them. And then I'll go back and they'll have like 30 videos since the last time I watched them, or 100 videos or whatever. Um, Texas, you say it's definitely not you, Dirk. I didn't enjoy your shows. There's a few people who I won't name who don't come here anyway, who just want to brag about the stuff they buy and have no clue what it is anyway. Oh, I see a lot of those people, Texas. Is they literally spend money just because they have it to burn. Buy 3 and 4 copies of the same damn movie. I mean, nothing is different. It's not a different release. Or they'll buy stuff that they don't even like. It's like, why would you do that other than to say, look how rich I am? Um, Texas, you say we're all a ride or die group in here. Um, I promise I am going to get to some movies, guys. John, you said the epitome of all flash and no substance is dead meat. 1 million plus subs and boring and bland. Yeah, I just want to watch that person just because of how bad it is, that you how bad you say it is, John. X-ray, you say when a hobby turns into a business, it stops being fun, and you're right in a lot of ways, X-ray. I think sometimes people become too popular and too much of a business, that they lose all sense of fun. They lose all sense of objectivity about their streams or their podcast or whatever. Um, Pretty much, popularity can essentially become the death knell, for a lot of these things, because once they get so popular and, I guess, dare I say, ultra popular, um, and my light just my my great light just went out. Guys, if you will bear with me, I am going to switch out the battery in my light so I can have my lovely background be cool for a little while longer. I know one thing I'm going to try to invest, something I am going to try to invest in, is batteries that last longer. These don't even seem to last 2 hours, which is what they're supposed to last. I mean, I know I did have some technical problems earlier, but geez. Yeah, there's no way that thing lasted 2 hours. Let's see. TJ, you say there's a YouTuber who started with her iPhone and Apple phone editing software and got thousands of viewers. Best to do it for the love of it, and that's what matters. Exactly. Durkee said, I'm just having fun with it, having a job, love talking film. Or you say, I have a job, love talking film and banging it out and hanging out with great like-minded freaks like me. Jay, you say serious YouTube channels chase clicks, but sacrifice the authenticity. I like and prefer. It's tough out there for an outcast. Yeah, that's really what I feel like. That I'm just I'm pretty much an outcast in any community, the YouTube community, the horror community, a live stream community, whatever you want to call it. John, you say, yeah, X-Ray agreed. It's YouTube, not a damn business venture, huh? John, you said, well, I won't say much, but I know what you're saying totally. Many people come across like they got into movies yesterday, haha. Not saying they did, but it often feels that way. And, don't you feel like, I'm not going to name names either, but don't you feel like some of these people that everybody wants on their live stream or on their podcast just really don't have anything to say? I mean, I ramble a lot, but when I see people get on a live stream and all they do is like do silly like gang sign stuff and point to the other people in the live stream and laugh a lot. And I see a lot of women do this. And I guess they think it makes them look cool, but I think it makes them look ridiculous. And doesn't really make me want to watch anything. They're loud and they're boisterous, and that kind of stuff just kind of turns me off. Let's see. John, you say, I see that on Facebook a lot. Young Gen Z kids, especially new fans. Yep. And you say everyone in here's probably been into film since we were little, I'd say. Yeah. I get that feeling from all of you guys in here pretty much. It's just a part of us. It's not a bragging right like many treat it as. TJ, you say, by the way, I think Friday 6 is my fave, at least today. Yeah, I'm like that too, TJ, that something that's my favorite in the series one day, you ask me 5 days later and it may be different. Jay, you say, I saw this hobby going from talking about and trading movies to people just being trendy consumers and showing off whatever boutique labels release. Yeah, and sadly, Jay, I'm seeing this more and more. It's like you guys were saying earlier. It's like, look what I bought. Look what I bought. Look how much money I've got, or look how in debt I am. I don't know which is the case, and I really don't care. But my advice to these people is don't be a show off. If you want to get on a live stream and talk about your stuff that you have, and it's okay to be proud of the things that you have and the things that you've collected. But when you start becoming a show off, that's when I want to tune out. So anyway, with that out of the way, I will say again that I had a pretty crappy weekend, with the exception of doing the Eurocult show with both Darren and Dirk. That was like the highlight of my weekend. The rest of it was just shit. I'll be honest. And today was not much better. It was just kind of a carryover from the weekend. And I promise this is the last thing I'll complain about. But basically, I've told all of you guys how I had COVID a few weeks ago. And after 2 doctor's appointments, they basically told me I had long haul COVID. I looked this up. This is a real thing, guys. I looked it up on the CDC, Center for Disease Control. And it is a real thing. It's not something that somebody just made up because they want to be sick and people feel sorry for them. It is real. And the reality is that I could have these fevers, intermittent fevers, for months. I have been told that I cannot go back to the office with a fever unless my fever has been gone without medication for 24 hours. I've been told that twice now. So I was talking to someone that I was assisting at work today. And yes, I am still working from home. And we got to talking about it, and it turns out that both she and I have long haul COVID. She's been working from home, not coming into the office at all for at least a year and a half to 2 years. Okay? Because she has long haul COVID. She still has symptoms and she can't come into the office and she can't really or shouldn't really be around anybody. Okay, so she was very nice. She told me what I needed to do, who I needed to contact in our HR department at Stockyards, and what I needed to ask for. And what she told me was to ask for intermittent FMLA. Now, I really don't want leave. I just want to not have to worry about, oh, do I need to get another doctor's note? When's the other shoe going to drop on that? When are these doctors going to say, whoops, bullshit, I'm not giving you, I mean, not that they would say that, but we're not going to give you another note saying that you can work from home because you've got fevers, because you're going to eventually hit the wrong one, the wrong nurse practitioner or the wrong doctor, and they're not going to give an inch. They will not write out the doctor's note properly. When I was still working for the library, that's exactly what they did to me. It's like they didn't believe me, and they said, you can go back to work in 2 days. And that's how they wrote out the note. Okay, if I went back to the office with these fevers, and I work with older people, and I don't know whose immune system's compromised and who's not, and what have you. Or I could give it to somebody and they could take it home to their kid. And if somebody died because of that, I would never be able to live with myself. That would be something I'd have to carry with me for the rest of my life. And plus, I feel pretty shitty some days. I'm so exhausted some days I could literally lay my head down and take a nap. So it's a lot harder for me to get out of the house, go stand and wait for that damn bus, go ride the bus downtown, have the bus driver be an asshole to me when I get to my stop because I'm not doing everything just right for them. Then I have to walk down a dangerous street to get to my workplace. It's like, throw me a bone here, people. So anyway, I contact this lady in HR who I was told was really nice and really helpful and would really help me out. Bullshit. She helped me out. She didn't do anything other than, she said, basically because I've only worked for Stockyards for 3 months, which I looked this up, but I didn't know about FMLA, because I've never really had it. So you have to work with your employer for at least a year before you're eligible for FMLA. That was the number one thing. So basically, she told me I had no leave other than the sick leave and the vacation leave and all that. And I only have 3 sick days right now, guys. I can't just and I tried to explain to her that I was not wanting to take off. I was only wanting permission to work from home. And I was told by my supervisors that I needed to get an updated note because HR might start asking questions. Now, she refused to accept any responsibility for HR requesting this information. She kind of tried to put it back on my supervisors. And she said, so you need to talk to your supervisor about working out some way to get you back in the office. And I'm like, I just told you that I'm still having fevers. Did you not read what I put in the email? Did you not comprehend that? And she said, or if you can't come in, I guess you'll just have to get more doctor's notes. I'm like, I've got insurance. It's great. And I only have to pay $25 or $30 when I go to the doctor or the little clinic. But I don't want to, I don't know how long this stuff's going to go on. I don't want to have to, like, every month, maybe twice a month or something, I got to go to the doctor and get another fucking doctor's note. So this really, really irritated me. Because I'm getting the same bullshit just about that I was getting when I worked for the library. And it's like, I'm just about ready to say, here I am. I'm sick as hell. I'm going to spread this shit to all of you guys. But I'm here. I'm in the office. Are you happy now? So, guys, ran over. I just got, I get more and more upset as I think about it. But anyway, I promise no more rants. We're going to talk about movies here in a second. I'm going to read. John, you say, yeah, I have a friend who's really into films and owns no physical media at all, but he's super smart about it. He just doesn't buy that stuff. Yeah, and that, to me, that's perfectly acceptable. X-Ray, you say, COVID hits women way worse, I heard. I have a family member with it, has trouble remembering things. Yeah, my mom had it, and she has what they call brain fog. But the problem is it's kind of like fibromyalgia and stuff like that, and chronic fatigue syndrome. A lot of times from the outside, you don't look sick, but you are sick, and it's hard for you to do things. Stress, anxiety, depression, those are other things that sometimes aren't visibly, people can see them. And so if they can't see them, they don't believe it. And it's very, very frustrating. Very frustrating. Yeah. I am going full Anthony Wong in Ebola syndrome. But I'm calming down now. And now we're going to get to the movies. It's almost 9 o'clock, but I did have some technical issues with being able to get on here and do my stream. But just before I get in the movies, just a word of warning, guys, don't get sick. Because you'll have to put up with this shit like I did, I'm afraid. Okay, so before I get into the Friday the 13th films, I wanted to talk about, I kind of wanted to talk about this, but you may be wondering where I got this. And I just wanted to talk about the cool things that you can get if you join the Lost Drive-In Patreon. That Darcy the Mail Girl, Joe Bob's Mail Girl, for the last drive-in does. I mean, I'm not saying that you're not cool, you don't have cool Patreon if you don't give out cool stuff all the time. But I'm just saying I pay $35 a month for this, and not only do I get all the posts that Darcy puts, but she also sends out periodically little gems like this. I have 2 other Blu-rays that she sent out that have like different excerpts from the many Joe Bob incarnations there have been over the years. And this one's no exception. This is actually the Lost Drive-In presents Night of the Living Dead, the original George Romero classic. And I at first thought it was going to be the Shudder, the Shudder version of it. But in a lot of ways, it's even cooler than that because you get the movie, but you also get when Joe Bob had, like in the early 90s, maybe it was 1990, he had some of the members from the original Night of the Living Dead. Plus, he had Tom Savini on there, who at the time had done the remake of Night of the Living Dead 90. And I just thought that gathering of people that Joe Bob had selected was great. It was also a peek back at drive-in theater for those of you that remember the drive-in theater. So if you aren't a member of the Lost Drive-In Patreon, I urge you to, it would be well worth your $35. I mean, actually, I'll keep this hush hush, but actually, it's worth a lot more than $35. When you get cool stuff like this, actually from Darcy, but you also get Patreon merch, which, to be honest, it didn't start out so great. The first T-shirts that they had out, even Darcy was disappointed in them and upset. But now they've got somebody different on the Patreon side managing it. And so I got a long sleeve shirt recently. I'm going to have to wait until it gets cooler weather to wear it. But it has like a cartoon Joe, Bob, and Darcy and Ernie on it. And I think it's really cool. And I'm looking forward to watching it when the weather gets cooler. Aaron's in here, aka Uncle Bill. You say, okay, I'm late to the party here. What is it that we're doing that you're not happy with, Data? I'm confused. What y'all are doing? Oh, well, I don't mean you guys, just you guys. I'm talking about, podcasting and live stream in general. And I'm not going to name names, and I'm not going to, but I think you could piece the puzzle pieces together. And I'm not going to get on here and trash any certain person or anything. And I'm not angry with you guys. I see a lot of people doing the, like I said, flavor of the month type thing. And I get that because I know that for a lot of people that are super, super popular, YouTube and live streaming and podcasting has become more of a business than it has a hobby. For me, it's more of a hobby. I'm not in any way, shape, or form at any stage of being able to monetize my videos, and I don't know if I will ever be. And that's okay. I'll keep doing them. But I'm sorry that you were confused. I was just talking about, I think you get flavor of the month, right? And this was probably more of a CK thing than you, too. So, again, no offense intended to anybody. I love you guys, and I support anybody that you want to have on your show or your live streams. That is your deal. I'm just mainly talking, in general, like system wide, So anyway, again, I just really encourage you to join like the Patreon for the Lost Drive-In. So hopefully I haven't pissed Uncle Bill off. Or CK. But because I had such a crappy weekend and a crappy Monday, I wanted to talk about movies and the nostalgia factor. And I just picked one series to talk about on this one. Who knows? We may have another nostalgia factor live stream at a later time. But I didn't want to pick like a whole bunch of movies, assorted movies that weren't part of a series, because I got to thinking about Friday the 13th, and Friday the 13th does have a very high nostalgia factor for me. Now, that might not be so for everybody. Their nostalgia factor may lie with, depending on your age, it could be Nightmare on Elm Street. It could be Hellraiser. It could be Halloween. But for me, I watch the Halloweens. I love the Halloweens. I love the Nightmare on Elm Streets and all that. But when I think of nostalgia and I think of the horror films that I watched when I was growing up, um, Aaron, you say, I mean, it doesn't bother me any. I do 2 hour long shows about sorcerer with 25 people in there. I just think we do whatever. None of the people we get on are really popular, is the thing. Mm, yeah, I get that. I get that, Aaron. I get that when you do like those shows, like you're doing the weekend at Freakins. Um, yeah, I get that, but I think there are some of the like when you do that, that's cool. But I'm talking about the main dead pit stuff. Um, those people are a little more popular or beginning to become popular. I love that you're doing like the weekend at Freakins and you did the Jaws thing, and you did some other things, and I was on there, and some other people that weren't quite as popular were on there. I think that is awesome. And again, it's not a jealousy thing with me. It's not that I'm sitting around here, they pick them over me. No, it's not that. Um, I just I just don't like that whole flavor of the month uh, rationale. Um, and I think Aaron knows who or whom, it could be many people um, that I'm talking about. But the reason why I don't want to mention names is not because I'm afraid, really. It's just because I don't intend to piss people off. But sometimes I just have to vent about stuff that kind of rubs me the wrong way. So I don't think this person that I was person or persons that I was talking about is really ever going to watch my stuff or watch my stuff very long, because they probably don't care because I'm not popular enough, or interesting enough for them, and that's okay. Um, but yeah, Aaron, you get a variety of people on there, and sometimes CK does too. But I'm talking about like the main shows. The main shows tend to focus on people that are either, I guess, what I would consider up and coming, or they're already there. You know what I mean? So, anyway, enough of that. I'm going to get into the movies here before everybody tunes out on me. And this is, whoo, I got stuff falling out all over the place. Uh, this is actually the Scream Factory set that came out. And as we all know, I'm about to dump those movies out all over myself. As we all knew would happen, the 4K of Friday the 13th is coming out in September 13th. And I already have it pre-ordered because, I'm not going to turn that down. But I would imagine a box set is on the horizon for 4Ks of Friday the 13th. But we're not going to spend like a lot of time on each one of these movies because this isn't really a dissection. This is going to be, I might talk about a few special features on each one of them. But the main thing that I'm going to talk about is how these movies make me feel. When I'm feeling shitty and I watch something with that nostalgia factor, it seems to make all that shitty stuff go away. And it soothes me. It calms me. It soothes me. And at that point in time, I feel like, just take a deep breath, Dana. Everything's going to be okay. Um, Aaron, you said, no worries, Dana. I mean, in the past months, I've got to do shows with Runk, Rambo, Jay, all kinds of folks from Dead Pits Past. Yeah, I think that is awesome. Um, you say, I think it's like SmackDown, Raw, and Heat. There's the main brand and then the side shows. Yeah. I guess I have a problem with people getting popular because they're on other people's shows. I don't think Rambo uh, or Runk and I don't or Jay. I don't think those people are in it to get any kind of uber popularity. But I feel like some of the people that are maybe on the main brand shows, as you say, um, and I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know that much about these people, um, but I feel like that they're trying to get something out of it, and they really don't add anything to the show. But like I said, that is y'all's baby, and I've got my baby, and I don't want to make anybody feel bad. Um, I just sometimes I get on a roll and I just start going. Um, hey, John, you say I'm 51. I saw part 3 through 8 in the theater. Well, you're a lucky dog because I definitely didn't get to do that. Some of the best movie going experiences ever. Love the Friday 13 series. And I do too, and I'm going to talk a little bit why, along with that nostalgia factor. So, believe it or not, and I'm sure many of you watching this um, didn't watch these in any particular order. Because for me, a lot of the Friday the 13th, like Friday the 13th Part 3 was on television a lot when I was growing up. Um, Maybe Part 4, but it seemed like Part 3 was on a lot. It was kind of just like a mix and match. There was a lot of years when I didn't even see Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th, on television at all. I'm sure it was on cable and satellite, but my family was a late adopter as far as satellite dishes. And by the time we got a satellite dish, this is how late of an adopter my family was. We didn't get one of the great big satellite dishes. We got one of the um, smaller ones, like the direct TV ones. Um, because my dad was never one, like, I don't want to say he was tight or anything like that, but he kind of was. But I see why he did that, because my dad was a great provider for our family, and he just didn't see wasting an enormous amount of money. And when satellite dishes first came on the market, they were expensive. The programming was expensive. So um, my dad chose, for the benefit of our family, to not get one of the big satellite dishes. We also were late adopters of a VCR. Um, but I am thankful that my dad did that, because if he had wasted a bunch of money, I don't think we would have been provided as well as we were. We never wanted for food or clothes to keep us warm, shoes on our feet, and all that stuff. Dad would purchase these extravagances when he could safely afford to do so. So, like I said, I'm sure that all the Friday the 13th were on cable and satellite at one time or another. My mom actually told me that she remembered watching the original Friday the 13th at my granny's because it was on cable, and my granny had cable. And I think at that point in time, probably cable was a little bit cheaper than the satellite dishes because the satellite dishes were generally for people that couldn't get cable. They didn't have access to cable. Um, so I'm trying to remember actually if you guys are talking about seeing different Friday the 13th in the theater. Um, I I can't recall if maybe Jason Goes to Hell possibly. I'm glad I didn't. Jason X wasn't my first one in the theater, John. But I would have loved to have seen some of the earlier ones at the theater. That would have been one heck of an experience. But like I said, believe it or not, I didn't watch. It was many years before I actually watched Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th, and so it wasn't one really that I have quite as much nostalgia for as some of the others because I saw the others on TV and stuff like that, albeit they were cut, but I still got to see them. Um, but when I was finally able to watch Friday the 13th, there is some nostalgia there um, because I was so excited when I actually got to watch the original, and I'm thinking that I probably rented it. This was when we finally got our VCR, and there was only a matter of time before I was going to get Friday the 13th. Um, Jay, you said the post just delivered my Arrow Tenebrae UHD box. I am so jealous. Like, I'm a little bit pissed that Steve got encouraged me to get mine from Amazon whenever the price dropped. Of course, the prices went back up now. He encouraged me to do that, and I did it, and now I wish that I hadn't because people are getting it from Arrow. The people that ordered it from Diabolic are getting theirs, and I'm like, man, I wish that I had just not listened to Steve, and he probably would have been pissed at me, but at least I would have had my Tenebrae now. Now I'm going to have to wait till like August 9th for Amazon to actually get it to me. I'm like, that makes no sense at all. I've got it pre ordered. It's supposed to come out August 2nd, which is Steve and I's anniversary. But yet Amazon's going to make me wait until August 9th for it to be delivered. That doesn't make any freaking sense. So I wish I hadn't listened to him and just went on and got it from Diabolic or Arrow. The seventh and final copy of this film I'm buying. LOL. We'll see, Jay. Wait till they come out with another one. Ben, you said the first Friday the 13th I watched was New Blood. It came out when I was young. I watched all of them out of order, though. I think, Ben, a lot of us watched them out of order, just probably more out of necessity than anything else, because I don't know for a fact that you guys did this, but like I said, I saw a lot of movies, especially around Halloween time on the television. And yes, they were cut. And when I was, I'm not going to say I was super, super young, but a lot of this stuff I started watching anywhere from the 11 to 13 age range. There was some stuff that I might have seen a little bit earlier, but that 11 to 13 age range was when I was really, really watching a lot of stuff. And my parents, I've said this before, they didn't ever really restrict me on what I could watch. There's basically only two movies that they wanted me to wait until I was over to watch, and that was Last House on the Left and I Spit on Your Grave, especially. And now I understand why. Back then I didn't. I thought I was missing the greatest horror movie ever made when my parents were watching I Spit on Your Grave, and I could hear all the things happening and the guys screaming and, the motorboat going and all that stuff. But I am thankful because I really don't think at that age that I would have had any understanding of really what was going on and what's an 11 to 13-year-old. How's their brain going to process gang rape? I mean, I have a hard enough time processing it as an adult. So, I think that was in my best interest that my parents just asked me to wait on those two films. Um, but as soon as I got old enough to and I was making my own money, you better believe I got I Spit on Your Grave. And I remember I got it in a clamshell VHS. Um, Now, I think I had watched it before then, but this was actually my copy, my first copy of it. And I was just like, I finally own this movie. And you guys might think, what kind of sicko are you? You were happy about and excited about getting that movie. Um, but, I hadn't seen it since I rented it. And so but I remember me and my brother had one computer at that time, and it was in my bedroom. So if he wanted to use the computer, he had to come in my room. And one day he wanted to use the computer, and I was watching my new VHS of I Spit on Your Grave. And so I asked him to keep his back turned during a lot of it just because of the high sexual content. And you kind of feel uncomfortable. Your younger brother, who's 6 years younger than you are, is in there, and there's all this like gang rape going on. Um, and John, you say sadly the first I saw in the theater was Jason X. X-Ray, you said the first Friday I watched in the theater was Jason Takes Manhattan. Second was Jason Goes to Hell. TJ, you say, I've seen 6 through Freddy vs. Jason in the theater. I did see Freddy vs. Jason in the theater. The others I caught on TV or rented when they had video stores. John, you say, I recall Channel 14 on cable was Encore. Encore was the best for 80s. Oh, definitely. Now, we had a channel 44, Fox 44, when I was growing up. That is the channel that showed, that was just a regular television channel for us, a local station. And they would show, the Halloweens, the Friday the 13th and stuff like that. Halloween was another series that I totally watched out of order. I saw 2, Halloween 2, I don't know how many times on television around Halloween, but they never seemed to show the original Halloween. I don't know if it was a rights thing or what, but it was shown on NBC. I know when it first, I guess maybe it had been out for about a year or so, and then they put it on NBC, but I probably was too young at that point to even watch it. So hey, Mentellect, uncomfortable may be an understatement. Yeah, it could be. Jay, you say, Dana's so proud of saving up to buy the gang rape movie. Warms my heart. John, you say, I remember joining Columbia House and getting my VHS through the mail. I joined one of those. I don't think it was Columbia House. It was a little later one. I joined like the DVD club a little bit later, and got some that way. It was basically one of those deals, and you probably remember, John, where you could order a bunch at one time for like a penny a piece or something. And then, of course, they would want you to buy at least 3 a month or something like that. But then once I fulfilled my agreement. Usually I was like, yeah, I don't want to keep doing this. And so I got all the movies I wanted at that point. And so I just canceled. Mental, like you say, Jason Goes to Hell was my first Friday the 13th in the movie theater. It seemed like that was the case for a lot of you guys. And that, I'm trying to remember, but that may very well have been my first one in the theater. So, back to the original Friday the 13th. The original Friday the 13th, the one that started it all, the one that introduced Tom Savini's spectacular special effects to a lot of young fans. I mean, there may very well have been people that were able to see his Dawn of the Dead stuff or something like that. But this was probably the movie that, in my opinion, put Savini on the map as far as special effects. And although when they do interviews with Tom Savini, or have done with Tom Savini over the years, he doesn't seem real proud of his slasher movie history, but it's part of his history. And I think it's a very valid part of his history, whether he wants to acknowledge it or not. He always says he really wanted to make creatures. And he's gotten to do that. I mean, the Creep Show, he got to make Fluffy, and I guess you could call Nate, his corpse coming back, I guess you could kind of call that a creature. He got to make a creature in a Tales from the Dark Side episode that he also directed. So he's had a very varied, successful career, in my opinion. But I still consider this the movie that put him on the map as far as special effects. So I'm sure everybody knows the plot, but I'm going to read this anyway. So, terror and suspense abound in this 24-hour nightmare of blood. Camp Crystal Lake has been shuttered for over 20 years due to several vicious and unsolved murders. The camp's new owner and 7 young counselors are readying the property for reopening despite warnings of a death curse by the local residents. But pretty much the only person that says it has a death curse is Crazy Ralph, the old man in town. Kind of like the town crier or whatever. The curse proves true on Friday the 13th as one by one each of the counselors is stalked by a violent killer. This film is widely acclaimed for its horrifying and creative murder sequences. Now, I don't know if Friday the 13th is really widely acclaimed, except amongst us horror fans. The audience at large, I don't think so, and especially not early on. Let's see. John, you say Encore was the first time I caught Night of the Comet and 3 O'Clock High. Mid-90s, I guess. That was how Stars and HBO are now playing stuff from 2005, back when it seemed like the 80s was old. Yeah, it's like the radio stations do the same thing. There's stuff on classic rock that is like not 70s and 80s anymore. It's moving into the 90s. It's like, what? Bam, when did this happen? And then you stop and realize how old you are, and it's like a slap in the face, or somebody splashing cold water on your face. Or that's the way it seems to me every time it happens. So, yeah, I mean, the same with what you said, John, that they're now showing stuff from 2005. Because you gotta think, we're in 2022 now. Jeez. John, you say time is weird how it messes with perception of decades. Yes, I agree. John Martin, you say, I like the original, but 2 and 3 are my favorite. Now, my cousin Jed, who, like I said, for the longest time was my movie watching buddy, number 3 was his all-time favorite, Friday the 13th movie for a long time. And I'm not sure it was because he saw it a lot on television like I did growing up, um, or what was the case, but he seemed to always have a particular fondness for part 3. But I guess I have gained a greater appreciation for the original Friday the 13th over time. But I'll tell you, I've mentioned this before about I have to like pace myself. Like, I can't just like drag these Friday the 13th movies. Oh, my goodness, guys. I can't drag these Friday the 13th movies out every week and watch a bunch of them because there's this thing that happens with me. If I watch them in too close succession with each other, I find myself zoning out, picking up my phone, picking up my tablet, and doing other things. And then by the time I look up again, it's 40 minutes into the movie or whatever. And it's like, okay, why did I just zone out here? So you can have overkill with these things. Even though they have that nostalgia factor, you can get the burnout factor, and then you start to zone out and do other things. Or you might even get up and go in another room and do something and come back. It's like, oh, yeah, that movie's still playing. But you were able to tune it out and go do something else and kind of forget about it for a while and then come back. So for me, whenever I reach that point, I know it's time to take a break from this particular series of movies, or maybe it's just a single movie that's like that. But I don't think I'm giving anything away because I think you guys have all seen Friday the 13th. But Friday the 13th, especially if you watched them out of order, you were probably thinking, where is Jason in the hockey mask? What's all this stuff about his mother? What's all this stuff about him, drowning in the lake, and then it turns out his mother's going around killing people? What's all this shit? So, because I was kind of like, when's Jason going to pop up? And you get Betsy Palmer in that crazy ass sweater running around talking in her son's voice. And then Jason doesn't even show up until the last scene. And then you're not sure, was that a dream? Did it really happen? Did she get pulled in the water? Did the cops come and find her in the water? And, so, but those ripples on the lake in that final scene always made me think Jason's down there. He's in the lake. And even if you didn't know about the sequels to come, if you watch these in the order that they were released, I think you could probably bank on them making a sequel to it. Now, at that time, I'm sure people didn't think there would be as many as there are now. But I think even though Paramount always treated the Friday the 13th series like the bastard stepchild, New Line didn't do that with Nightmare on Elm Street. They pretty much embraced that series. But Paramount always treated Friday the 13th like it's a dirty secret. And I think that was detrimental to the series on a lot of levels because there were so many incarnations of these movies that came out in, on DVD. And like, I remember there were kind of like, basement priced, bargain basement priced DVDs that came out before like that first really good special edition that came out. And Paramount didn't even think it worthy to put any special features on. It's like, what the heck? And they were overpriced, in my opinion. So Paramount was just taking us for a ride, pretty much. Um, but now, thanks to, some of these other companies getting the rights to the movies, we're able to benefit from that. And say what you will about Scream Factory, I know they've made some mistakes along the way, but I like this box set. And for now, I'm satisfied with this box set. This is a nice, in my opinion, Blu-ray box set. I realized that after, I believe, part 4, I think it's part 4, they're not really new and improved transfers. But I still think, if you could get your hands on it, of course, now, people are scalping the hell out of this box set. But I was able to get mine early. Steve actually had it on pre-order, and then when I pre-ordered it, he said, "Nah, I'm not gonna get it," because he's not like me. He doesn't see that we need like 2, especially box sets of the same exact movies. John Martin, you say Kevin Bacon has a new slasher coming on Peacock August 5th. Yeah, he does, and I'm totally blanking on the name of it now. Maybe you can refresh my memory, John. TJ, you say people who saw one of the Jason Fridays first don't give part 1 any credit. Yeah, and sadly, TJ, I believe I was one of those people for a long time. But now I feel like at the age I am, I have a greater appreciation for the movie and what it was trying to do. You say it has issues, but there's some good suspense, even with the really slow parts. Enough with the coffee, Alice, LOL. John, you say part 1 is a classic. The end and music are so great, love. John, you say, love them all, but 1 is the best to me. And Mental Lake, you say true. TJ, you said they, them is a Kevin Bacon movie. Okay, gotcha. John Martin, you say it's called They Slash Them. Interesting. I'll have to check that out. So, if I hope I didn't ruin the ending for anybody in here that may have not seen Friday the 13th. But even if it's been a while since you watched Friday the 13th, I would say pull that back out from your shelf and give it another watch. And especially if you've got the new transfer of it, that'll get us by until that 4K is out. For those of us that have the ability to watch 4K, I realize, I'm not bragging in any way, shape, or form, but I do realize, I'm cognizant enough to realize that not everybody has 4K, not everybody is interested in getting 4K, but this will definitely suffice, and it's going to get me by until the 4K comes out. Now, I talked about special features, and I am going to mention the special features on these discs. So this one, you get the new 4K scan of the original camera negative. You get both the uncut version and the theatrical R-rated version. Audio commentary with director Sean S. Cunningham, screenwriter Victor Miller, author Peter Bracke, and more. That's on the uncut version only. Fresh cuts, the new tales from Friday the 13th. The man behind the legacy, Sean S. Cunningham. Theatrical trailer, TV spot, radio spots, and a still gallery. TJ, you said, good call, John. They should have spelled it out in the title like that instead of the / symbol. Gotcha. Okay. So, like I said, I wasn't going to spend like an enormous amount of time on each one of these because I think I should get some sleep and let you guys get some rest as well. Because the majority of us, I'm sure, have to go to work tomorrow, even if we're working from home. Um, so, we're going to move along to Friday the 13th Part 2, which may have been on television at one time in my neck of the woods, but 3 is the one I remember, and possibly Part 4. But Friday the 13th Part 2, I'm sure it was on heavy rotation on cable and satellite channels. I noticed there was like a smudgy fingerprint on my disc or on my case. I just can't stand it. So, Friday the 13th Part 2 introduces a whole new set of counselors that are in training. And they've gone to a counselor training center where John Fury and Amy Steele are going to be showing them how to be camp counselors at a camp. And there are no small kids in this one, so you never really have that danger factor. Part 1, the only time really you had that danger factor, that extra danger factor, was the beginning when there were actual kids that were sleeping. But Part 2 doesn't have any kids at the actual camp. These are literally counselors that are in training. So Adrian King does show up at the beginning of the film, only to be dispatched quite quickly. And I was always, confused because the outfit that Adrian King has on, the little bluish green jumper, in the beginning shots where she's having the nightmare about Jason's mother, and her cutting Bessie Palmer's head off and all of that. I always thought that was a maternity outfit, and I thought maybe she was pregnant because her face did look fuller. I mean, she didn't look fat. She looked like she was pregnant. But I have never heard Adrian King say she was pregnant at that time. But it did seem to me that jumper just seemed like it seemed sort of roomy in the belly area, and I just had myself convinced that she was pregnant during that time. But again, I've never, and maybe she was, and she wants to keep that part of her life private, and that is entirely her prerogative to do that. But did anybody else think that about the outfit that Adrian King has at the beginning? Am I just completely way off base with that? So, like I said, Alice, Adrian King's character, pretty much gets dispatched early with one of those files or something like that. It's a tool, and it gets inserted into her head, and also Mrs. Voorhees' head shows up in her refrigerator. She's opening it to get some milk or something out for the cat, and Mrs. Voorhees' head is in there in a very cool shot. And then, of course, Alice is dispatched quite quickly. And two, Jason's nice enough to remove the whistling tea kettle from the heat before he leaves. I'm not sure if he turned off the stove or not. TJ, you say she was wearing overalls, but now that you mentioned it, LOL, Um, Ice pick. um, John, you say, as a kid, I thought maybe Jason helped her without her knowing. He'd be old enough. Yeah. I know that armchair quarterbacking the story later saying that. No, that's perfectly fine. Um, and as we all know, we're going to get to part three. Jason appears to be a rapist in that one, which totally doesn't make any sense. I always thought Jason was just about the killing and the revenge and stuff. I didn't think he had any interest or would maybe even understand what sex was, even though he'd seen many naked young people over time. Um, so once Alice is dispatched, we move into the counselor training center where these new counselors in training are there. Amy Steele, John Fury, Harry Manfredini returns doing the music. Um, but we also have people like Laura Marie Taylor who would show up on several other movies or movies prior to this. Um, and we also have Russell Todd who showed up in some other horror movies as well. One a particular note is He Knows You're Alone. Now, he was not in the main part of the film. He was also in Chopping Mall, too. But Reggie's coming to say hello. Aren't you, Reg? He likes to come back here sometimes when I'm back here and say hello to everybody. Don't you, Reggie? He's probably just a little tired and wonders why I'm not going to bed. But what are you doing, Reggie? You want to say hello? I'm doing my live stream. But anyways, I may have to let him out in a minute, but I'm going to go on with this for a little bit. Hold on, Reggie. But Russell Todd was also in He Knows You're Alone, not in the main part of the movie, but in the movie within the movie, he does show up in there. But I've got somebody else coming back here, Brandon, so hold on, guys. Just 1 second here. All right, guys, I'm back again. Now, Reggie's probably going to have to come in a little while, so you may hear him banging on the door. I did also have to get me a little bit of my coffee drink. This is actually vanilla, but it looks like it might be chocolate. I think because it's got coffee in it. But my blood sugar is feeling a little funky too, so this has definitely got sugar in it. So I thought it would make me feel better. Johnny say Jason is a curse that comes back over and over, but the idea that he kept his mom's head and saw her killed gives credit to the notion that he was around and won. I don't know. Victor Miller would disagree, huh? Victor Miller would disagree about a lot of things, unfortunately. Like I've said, I don't know. Victor Miller seems to have soured over the years on a lot of things, and now he just, in my opinion, he just seems like a complete asshole about everything. But anyway, back to part two. I'll give you a little bit of a plot synopsis, even though you guys probably don't need that. But just when you thought it was safe to go back to camp, here's even more heart pounding terror. 5 years after the horrible bloodbath at Camp Crystal Lake, all that remains is the legend of Jason Voorhees and his demented mother, who had murdered 7 camp counselors at a nearby summer camp. The new counselors are unconcerned about the warnings to stay away from the infamous site. Unwitting and unaware, they roam the area, not sensing the ominous lurking presence. One by one, they find that the grisly legend is real. Suspense and screams abound as terrifying follow up to the original smash hit film. Now, keep in mind, this is when Friday the 13th was still new. It was on people's radar, but it was still new and fresh. And we hadn't had all these different, incarnations of basically the same story. But I still enjoy part two. I think Amy Steele is an admirable final girl. Um, and I might get bashed for this, but Amy Steele's attractive, but I don't think she's all out like drop dead gorgeous. And to me, she's a very resourceful final girl. Not all final girls are resourceful like this. She, at the end, when she's battling out with Jason, because of her psychology background, she's able to think, okay, if I put this grungy old Jason's mama sweater on, maybe he'll think I am his mama. And unfortunately, my light went out again. But I might just say screw it at this point. But anyway, she is able to pretty much fight Jason off at every turn. And doesn't really seem to need anybody's help until John Fury's character just shows up and says, Jenny, I think she would have done just fine without him. It's almost like once he shows up again, she just falls apart. She loses all her strength. It's like Samson losing his hair. You know what I mean? I don't know what happened, but it's just she just collapsed at that point. Mental like you say, I enjoy some of the Friday the 13th fan films. Oh, I do too. We could probably have a whole live stream just on those fan films. Yeah, some of them I like, some of them not so much. But yeah, there's definitely a fan base for those. But this one, I think, again, was my nostalgia comes from watching it on VHS, renting it and watching it on VHS, rather than actually watching it on TV first, which also allowed me to see the way the movie was intended. It is rated R. It's not like it's unrated, but still, yet everything's intact. So, let's go over a few special features on this. Again, you get a new 4K scan from the original camera negative. You get Inside Crystal Lake Memories, the book, Friday's Legacy Horror Conventions, podcast interview with Amy Steele, theatrical trailer, TV spots, radio spots, and a still gallery. Friday 13th Part 2, a worthy sequel to the original film. And one that some people may consider better than the original. Okay. Yeah, John Martin. Still, for me, even though I read the information about it in Peter Brackey's book, it still is not clear if Paul actually survived at the end. If you want to, give some more information to prove me wrong on that, that is perfectly fine. John, you said the only slasher film where staying drunk at the bar saves them. Exactly. Ted, he lived. Stu Charno's character. And now all the other people that stayed behind at the bar. But it's like, they lived, but it's like, wouldn't they have eventually come back to the camp and either saw the carnage or saw the cops and the ambulances and stuff there? It's like they disappeared. Like after those last shots of you seeing them in the bar and casino, you don't see them anymore. But again, there's horror movie logic. But the next one, actually, when it originally came out in theaters, and I don't know how many of you guys in here actually got to see it in 3D with the red and blue glasses in the theaters, but I envy you if you did, because I was never able to do that. Now, I have seen this in stereoscopic 3D. This version actually has a version in 3D that you can use the glasses that come with the 3D televisions if you're lucky enough to have one of those. Although not perfect 3D, it's almost there. It's almost there. But now it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're not making 3D TVs anymore, so that fad has revived itself and went away several times. So when Steve's 3D enabled TV finally goes on the fritz, I guess we're going to invest in a 3D projector. But we haven't got to that point yet. And at that time, I'll have to let you guys know, if I'm still doing these, how that is. But I will have to say, although I enjoy the 3D for what it is, and that I enjoy most of the movie, I feel like, and this is my personal opinion, that this final girl, Dana Kimmel, is the worst final girl in the Friday the 13th series. I'm not going to say in any series, but definitely, in my opinion, the Friday the 13th series, no way, no how. She can't emote, she can't act. Some people say she was better in the movie Sweet 16. I didn't think she was any good in that either. And you guys are probably thinking, boy, Dana's got a grudge against Dana Kimmel. Well, maybe I do, but here's the thing about her that really pissed me off. Years and years ago, and I've told this story before, but some of you may not have heard it. Years and years ago, I read this article in Fangoria called the Women of Camp Crystal Lake. And they were interviewing the final girls from the films that were out at that time that issue came out. So they ended up interviewing Dana Kimmel. And all Dana Kimmel wanted, I think she's mellowed a little bit over the years because the commentary for Friday 13th Part 3, she didn't sound too bad. But in this article, years prior, all she wanted to talk about was how she didn't feel comfortable doing this. She didn't feel comfortable doing that. And why the hell are you in a Friday the 13th movie? And she didn't want to do what Steve Miner wanted to do. And she kept making him change stuff. And it's like she was bragging about, I made him do this. I said I was not doing that. And we had to change it. There was too much sexuality in it. We had to change it. Too much violence. We had to change it. It's like, again, why the hell are you in a horror movie? Sex and violence kind of go hand in hand in a horror movie, lady. But like I said, in the actual commentary for this disc, she seems to have mellowed a little bit over the years. Maybe somebody knocked her down a couple of pegs. I don't know. Johnny say, nah, Dana Kimmel was pretty awful. Shelley's crush was a better actress. Yeah, I would agree with that. John Martin, you say, I think she was really religious for a while. And that certainly could be. I've seen many people get, and I'm not making fun of anybody that's religious, but when you get overly religious and got this extreme born again mentality, it just makes me want to gag. It's like, it's great if you found God and you want to share that with people, but don't put down your past. It's not like you were in a snuff film or anything. For Jesus Christ, you were in a horror film. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox again. TJ, you say, I'm guessing, but I think Chris in 3, because the actress was very Christian, so they made it vague what happened to her. But Jason not really trying to kill her in flashbacks makes it even more weird. It does. It does. It's like he's no longer Jason the slasher, he's Jason the rapist. Which, yeah, like you say, that is even more weird. Jay, you say too bad she wasn't in a snuff film. I kid. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want anything to happen to her. It's like, lady, get off your high horse. You're supposed to be talking to fans of horror movies about the movie. They don't give a shit about what you told Steve Miner that you didn't want to do. Like, why didn't you just say, I don't want to be in this movie? That would have been the correct thing to do, and let some actress that could act, number one, and number two, didn't mind doing the scenes that were required. I'm not saying a chick has to take off her clothes every 5 seconds in the movie. But I'm saying, like, have a little sense about what really attracts people to horror movies. And if you can't accept that or don't want to be part of that, then it's better if you don't act in those films. Johnny say, I'm sure she took those actor demands right to the local TV weather station if she even has a job doing that. But I'm going to give a little plot synopsis for this. Again, not that you guys really need it, but maybe somebody watching this later is not entirely in tune with the Friday 13th universe. So, an idyllic summer turns into a nightmare of unspeakable terror for yet another group of naive counselors. Ignoring Camp Crystal Lake's bloody legacy, one by one they fall victim to the maniacal Jason, who stalks them at every turn. Friday 13th Part 3 will have you frozen with fear as Jason finds his way into your living room in 3D. And special features, we got a few special features on here. Again, you get a new 4K scan, the original film negative, and a new 3D transfer, which does look better than previous transfers, I'll be honest. Audio commentary with actors Larry Zerner, Paul Kratka, Richard Brooker and Dana Kimmel. And speaking of Larry Zerner's another one that's become a little pissant over time. And I don't know what his deal is. It seems just because he became a lawyer, he wants to, play the sue me, sue you game, and cease and desist game and all that. But a fresh cuts, 3D terror, legacy of the mask, theatrical trailer, TV spot, and still gallery. And this is the movie where Jason actually gets his mask. And this is the one, even though I shit all over Dana Kimmel's performance pretty much. But this is the one that holds a lot of nostalgia for me because this is the one I remember watching on television the most out of any Friday the 13th movie because it was always on my local television station all the damn time. So, of course, it's going to hold more of a nostalgia factor for me than some of the others. Doesn't mean it's the best of the bunch. It just means this is the one that when I really want to get that nostalgia factor, I need to pop in part 3. I'm not saying I don't have a nostalgia factor for some of the others. I do. But because this one was on heavy rotation on television when I was a kid, it brings me back to that how I was when I was that kid. A simpler time. Definitely less stressful time. I didn't know stress then. I had no stress. But I loved horror movies, and this was one of them that, like I said, was on heavy rotation, and so I kind of latched on to it. Hold on, guys. Sorry to have to leave again. Okay, guys, unfortunately, Reggie didn't come in, so I may have to very well get up again to let him in and let Brandon in. John, you say, I wish they would release that ending where Jason beheads Chris. It's in magazines, it still. Yeah, and John, did you know that that was one of the scenes that she insisted that not Sean Cunningham, Steve Miner not put into the movie? Like, she literally refused. I don't know if she threatened to walk off the set, but I would be like, screw you, walk off the set then. But Steve Miner's probably a little bit nicer than I am. John, you say, yeah, Shelley has made a whole Twitter falling out of covering the Jason lawsuit, but it's always vague BS, no updates. Yeah. It seems like he's riding off the coattails of all that mess. TJ, you say Friday 13th Part 3 and Blurry Vision, LOL. Yeah, a lot of times, unfortunately, with the many incarnations of these 3D movies, sometimes you feel like you might be going blind after you watch some of them because your eyes are so screwy afterwards. But anyway, that's Friday 13th Part 3 in 3D. Next, we're going to move along to another one that I am pretty sure either I watched it heavily on television or heavily on VHS in my VHS days, or a little bit of both. It's been many moons, guys, so I can't remember exactly. But Friday the 13th, the final chapter, or Friday the 13th Part 4, is another one that I have a high nostalgia factor for. Um, and say what you will about Corey Feldman. I think the introduction of him and his character of Tommy Jarvis into the series was a major um, feather in their cap. You know, maybe not a feather in Paramount's cap because they didn't give a shit. The series could have died, you know, and they wouldn't have cared. But for the, you know, for Joe Zito, for Tom Savini, who came back and did the special effects because, hey, they thought this was going to be the last one. Hence the final chapter. But as huge fans of this series, we know that was not meant to be. We've had several since the final chapter. But I'm sure at the time Tom Savini thought, oh, cool, you know, I pretty much created Jason. So now I get to kill Jason off. What an accomplishment for me. Like, I bookended my career pretty much. But, and again, say what you want about Corey Feldman. I think that having him play Tommy Jarvis, the young Tommy Jarvis, a character who continued the character, not Corey Feldman, unfortunately, but the character of Tommy Jarvis was actually played in 3 different movies by 3 different people. One being Tom Matthews in part 6, where Tom Matthews does an excellent job. I'm totally forgetting the guy's name that played Tommy Jarvis in part 5. But I was thinking, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I was thinking he went through like a kind of small, you know, born again thing where he didn't really want to talk about part 5. And now I think he is mellowed as well. But the Tommy Jarvis character, I thought, was an awesome addition. And like I said, a feather in the filmmaker's cap. And whether Paramount wants to acknowledge it or not, it was essentially a feather in their cap. But, you know, it probably the most, the one person that it benefited the most was probably Frank Mancuso Jr., who had pretty much taken over the series by this time. And so it was a definite feather in his cap. So, a little bit about the plot. The body count continues to mount in this vivid thriller. The fourth and final, and it's got a question mark by final, story in a wildly successful Friday the 13th series. Jason, Crystal Lake's least popular citizen, returns to wreak further havoc in Friday the 13th, the final chapter. After his revival in a hospital morgue, the hockey mask murderer fixes his vengeful attention on the Jarvis family. A group of hitherto carefree teenagers, young Tommy Jarvis is an aficionado of horror films with a special talent for masks and makeup. Has the diabolical Jason finally met his match? And if you didn't notice, which I don't know how you couldn't notice, Tommy Jarvis is clearly a homage and an ultimate appreciation of Tom Savini. And if you didn't discover that, I highly recommend you go back and rewatch this because Tommy Jarvis is, to me, an incarnation or one of the many faces of Tom Savini. Because if you've watched documentaries on Tom Savini where he talks about how he used to, you know, make up the neighborhood kids and they'd go home scare the crap out of their parents because he would make, you know, slit throats and stuff like that. And they'd say, well, you can't play with Savini anymore. And how he would make himself up and come and perform for his family members. And they'd be like, that's nice. Why are you doing that? And the new documentary, Smoke and Mirrors, goes even more in depth than the Screen Greats special. And that he talks, Savini actually talks about he was paid in milkshakes and silver dollars, I believe, for playing Dracula on a television show because he said they used to pick a kid out of the audience, and he said the kids were never really good. And then he got himself all dressed up with his talent and stuff. He dressed himself up like Dracula and got near the front row. They picked him, and from then on out, they used him, and they didn't, they no longer did they pick a different kid every time the show came to town, so to speak. Hey, old curly jaws, you say Seed of Chucky is nostalgic for me. It's the first Chucky film I've ever seen. See, and I love that, old curly jaws, even though Seed of Chucky is not my favorite Child's Play movie. It is entertaining, but this just shows everybody, the different generations, what they have a nostalgia for. And it may not be what we agree with, but it's really cool to see that separation, or I don't really want to call it a generational gap, but a separation between like the kids growing up in the 80s and then much younger individuals like our old curly jaws who have a nostalgia for later films that we wouldn't even have thought would be nostalgic, but they're nostalgic for him and his generation. Um, oh, Curly Jaws, you say, I can't remember if you've seen the Chucky series or not. Are you? It's over season 2, if so. I did watch several episodes of that series, and honestly, oh, Curly Jaws, I think I said this before, but I'll bring it up again. That I like that series better than I did the remake. The remake was awful. And I don't think you like the remake either, right? So yeah, I kind of am excited for season 2. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna. Brandon's actually wanting to come in now. Okay. I lied. I had the other battery charging, and so I put it on there just so we can bask in the glory of my background. No, I'm just kidding. Um, Johnny said, I need to see the Chucky series, Curly. Heard good stuff. Yeah, I think you'll like it, John. Um, so let's go over some special features on the final chapter. This is, I think, the last one in this set that actually has a new 4K scan on it. But you do get also audio commentary by director Joseph Zito, screenwriter Barney Cohen, and editor Joel Goodman. Fan audio commentary by filmmakers Adam Green and Joe Lynch. Slash scenes with audio commentary by Joseph Zito. Jason's Unlucky Day, 25 years after the Friday the 13th, the final chapter. The Lost Ending, which is really interesting, in my opinion. Theatrical trailers, still gallery, and more. And this, again, is another one that holds high nostalgia for me, just because I saw it so often when I was younger, and also holds a special place in my heart. Like I said, whatever you think about Corey Feldman now, I think he was an excellent choice to play the young Tommy Jarvis in this movie. And I think Corey Feldman appreciates the series too. When you hear him talk, once you get past the, all the other craziness, you really see a guy that appreciates his film. He didn't turn his back on this film. And he doesn't act ashamed of it. He'll talk about it and do interviews and all that. And some of you may be thinking, well, that's because he doesn't have anything else to do, doesn't have anything else going on. But I still, have an appreciation for somebody that can still appreciate this film years and years later and not be ashamed that they were in it. So anyway, Friday 13th, the final chapter, Friday 13th, part 4. John, you say, I don't hate the remake, it's just a different Jason. Jason's more like Rambo in it. Yeah, and even though I've only maybe watched the remake a couple of times, I'm really interested in meeting Derek Mears just because I hear that he's a really nice guy. Of course, I might want to brush up on the remake before I meet him. The Friday 13th remake is not one that I hate either. X-Ray say part 4 is banger. Part 6 felt like the most epic of the series. Yeah, and that might be because of that was the final one with the Tommy Jarvis character, and like usually these other characters don't carry on in a succession of films like that, and if they do, just like the Alice character played by Adrienne King, she was in the first Friday the 13th, and then the second one she gets dispatched really quickly at the beginning of the film. Now, part of that was probably due to Adrienne King and the stalking issue. I feel really bad for her that she had to go through that. But let's see. Oh, Curly Jaws, you say Friday 13th, the final chapter is just unwatchable. I don't know, Curly Jaws. I mean, you're entitled to your own opinion, but I love it. It is one of my, go-to ones in the series. Now moving along to part 5 with the imposter Jason and the, in my opinion, kind of confusing ending. Well, maybe confusing isn't the the way to put it. Maybe disjointed is another way to put it. But that doesn't mean I hate it. I used to not like this one at all. But I don't know if it's because Dead Pit championed it so much or what. But I have a greater appreciation for it in the last several years, maybe the last 10 years or so. I have gotten a greater appreciation for the film and what I think Danny Steinman was trying to do with it. Um, Again, the Tommy Jarvis character returns. Um, and you know what? Danny Steinman did some like adult films. And I think if they had really let him go with this, I can only imagine how the scene with Debbie Sue Voorhees and her boyfriend in the film would have went. Uh, which I'm not really into that, but if that's what Danny Steinman wanted to do with the film and they would have allowed it, I mean, who am I to say anything about it? Um, but I do think Danny Steinman, at the time that he made this movie, he wanted to make a different kind of Friday the 13th. He didn't want to make the same cookie cutter type of films that most of the series, unfortunately is made up of cookie cutter plots, cookie cutter actors and actors or characters rather. And that's not, there's no denying that. But I do think Danny Steinman wanted to do something different with this. He inserted more comedy in Junior and Ethel, who are the most vulgar, hillbilly-esque people I've ever seen in movie history. But again, I have a greater appreciation for their characters now. I get it now. When I was a kid, I was like, what's all this stuff about an imposter Jason? There's not really Jason in this movie except in visions that Tommy has. So Tommy basically is going to like a halfway house. He's been in a mental institution because he evidently couldn't deal with what happened in part 4. And so now he's coming to, I guess, like a halfway house to prepare him for re-entry into society. So, but it's clear very early on that Tommy is not ready to re-enter society. But I do think of the 3 actors that have played Tommy Jarvis in 3 different films, sadly, this guy's the weakest, in my opinion. Although Danny Steinman made great strides in introducing a little more humor into, albeit vulgar humor, but we're all adults here. But I guess it kind of, there was just a weak link with the guy playing, I almost said Jason, with the guy playing Tommy in this one. I'm not saying he was a horrible actor. I'm just saying there was something just that didn't sit just right with me on that. I prefer Corey Feldman or Tom Matthews' portrayal of Tommy Jarvis a lot better. Let's see. X-Ray say, like, the series could have easily ended with 6. Yeah, it's entirely possible it could have. But then I think we wouldn't have had Kane Hodder, who I'm going to talk about here in a little bit when we get to the first film that he was in. John Martin, you say, I like 6, but the paintball scene ruins it for me sometimes. See, I like the paintball scene. I think that's a little bit of adding a little extra humor to the series. And I wouldn't want it to be all humorous, but I like that little added, kind of point and snicker type things, a little wink here, a little, side smile here, kind of like a few in jokes for the fans of the series. Um, oh, Curly Jaws, you say part 5 was 10 times better than 4, lol. Well, you're probably in the same camp as like the Dead Pit guys, and although I don't know that maybe they have, but I don't know that they've actually said that it's 10 times better than 4, but they really do enjoy it. X-Ray said part 5 is the one everyone pretends to hate, but so many great moments. Yeah, and that it took me years before I did that, before I got to that point, because I used to hate part 5 pretty much. I could not understand why they would make a Friday the 13th film like this. But as we know now, they make a lot of horror movie franchises have an entry like that. X-Ray said that scene with the Axe Maniac at the beginning was hilarious. X-Ray say, I will say this. I wish the new wave and punk chick was the final girl. I had a huge crush on her. That robot dance really did it for me. I think there were probably several people that had a crush on Violet in the movie. Whereas a lot of people probably think, well, I think that was more of a horny aspect to Debbie Sue Voorhees getting naked and her boobs popping out there, and those were natural ones too. So a lot of guys go for that. Some go for the fake boobies. But I think there's a fair amount that go for the real thing as well. I did think, though, that was a cool robot dance. John, you say Reggie was later in Family Matters as Weasel. As a kid, I saw it and I was like, what's Weasel doing here? Exactly. Um, and who else he was on, or what else he was on, was Different Strokes. Dudley. He played Arnold's friend Dudley in some of the episodes of Different Strokes. TJ, you say, why was Tommy in part 5 sent to a halfway house near where he had trauma as a kid? Who the heck was his doctor? LOL. Yeah, that's a very good question, TJ. Curly Josh, you say Corey Feldman is a better singer than an actor. I'll say that. I don't know. I like Feldman's acting. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. A lot of people, I think, read too much into his other exploits or the whole thing about Corey Haim and who raped Corey Haim and all that. I think, if such a thing happened, yes, it should come out. But I think Corey Feldman put too much stock in that, and I think he's went on about it way too long now, and I think people are just tired of that. They're tired of that insanity and that craziness. And so, when it was revealed who supposedly raped Corey Haim, at this point, I mean, I'm sure that Corey Feldman has done so many drugs, we don't know if he actually remembers who did what to whom at this point. So I'm not saying that it didn't happen the way that he said it happened or who did what. But you kind of have to take some of this stuff at this point with a grain of salt. And I feel sorry for Corey Feldman in a lot of ways. I think he's tortured by all this stuff. But yeah, I'm not going to really get off on a huge tangent with that. Texas, you say, like the fake A. Michael Baldwin character in Phantasm 2. Yeah, exactly. X-Ray, you say, I like part 7 too. It was cool to see someone finally take it to Jason. Yeah, yeah, the whole Carrie versus Jason thing was awesome, I thought. John, you say, I love Corey Feldman. He's crazy as hell, but I love me some two Corys. Oh, I did too. You know, especially in the 80s when they were making all those films together, the two Corys were the thing for the longest time. You know, Lost Boys, License to Drive, all that stuff. I think when it started to fall apart for me was when Corey Haim and Corey Feldman were in a film called Blow Up, or was it Blow Up? I don't know. Blown Away. That's what it was. I didn't care for that movie at all, and I thought that both of their talents were wasted, pretty much in that movie, and that it relied too much on sex and nudity and not enough on an essential plot for the movie. John, you say he's at Knoxville this weekend for a con. If StarCast wasn't this weekend, I'd go. Oh yeah, I mean, Steve always looks at me like I've got my shirt on sideways or backwards or inside out or whatever. When I say that I would like to meet Corey Feldman, he's like, "Why?" You know, hell, I would have, barring Corey Haim's untimely death and the poor choices he's made along the way, despite that, I would have liked to have met him. X-Ray, you said, my cousin got in trouble for racking up the phone bill calling the Corey's hotline. Thankfully, I never did that. John Martin, you said, I love Fives Roy as Jason. Didn't bother me. Great movie. Now, we also get Dominic Brasha in here as Joey. I love that character. Him with his chocolate candy bars, and telling Vic he's really out of line right before Vic kills him. And Vic is actually played by the guy who was in Return of the Living Dead, like the head of the punk gang. And let's see, we have several people who went on to do other things. Miguel Nunez is also in this as Demon. I love those damn enchiladas. That's what I mean by Danny Steinman really put noticeable humor in this. Ethel Jr., Demon, and the enchiladas thing. Him and his girlfriend, a Demon and his girlfriend, like doing the ooh baby thing while he's sitting on the toilet in an outhouse crapping out the enchiladas that made him run to the bathroom in the first place. I mean, there are just so many, humorous moments. Most of them courtesy of Ethel Jr., but you have these other things, other characters that pop up in the film that make it very memorable. But speaking of Dominic Brasha, before he passed away, made a film called Evil Laugh, which is another kind of nostalgic horror movie for me from the 80s. I think it was like 85, 86, something like that. I remember renting that movie and thinking it was great, and I still like it a lot. So basically, Dominic Brasha and Scott Baio's brother, Stephen Baio, made that film. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend it. But a little side note, and this is kind of a depressing side note, but there was a guy that was on the internet saying that for a long time that Dominique Brasha was the one that raped Corey Haim. And like, I think they basically ruined Dominic Brasha's career at that point because, I mean, even if somebody didn't do something, when somebody comes out like that and keeps tooting their own horn about knowing some inside information, and this guy claimed to be friends with Corey Haim's mother and that she could confirm it, I don't even think Corey Haim's mother was around him that much, especially not when they were mixed up in the him and Corey Feldman were mixed up in the partying aspect of their careers. She couldn't have been there that much. And if all these bad things were happening to her son, and she, had no clue about it. But then for this guy to say, oh, yeah, she says Dominique Brasha raped Corey. But, and that was told over and over again not long before Dominique Brasha passed away. And it kind of made me angry because I still don't know who did what to both of the Coreys. Because things are so messed up. That was a messed up time. People were doing drugs and drinking and all kinds of stuff. Who knows who did what, really? And I'm not saying they did or they didn't. I'm just saying we don't know because things were all messed up. But to purposely ruin a guy's career and then send him down this enormous spiral and then he dies, I just think that's wrong. But, and actually, Steve is kidded that Reggie the Reckless is where we got the Reggie, my dog's name, or our dog's name. Actually, his namesake is Reggie Bannister from the Phantasm series. But my dog Reggie did for a while have his own red jogging suit, like Reggie the Reckless. Of course, he's outgrown it now and can't wear it, but he looked really cute in it. And one time I put on Friday the 13th Part 5, and Reggie sat there in his red jogging suit with me on the couch, and we actually watched it a little bit. But there's a nostalgia thing for you, too, as well. And John, you say it's surprising Linnea Quigley never landed a Friday role. She's not a great actress, but she'd fit right in any of them. Oh, yeah. I don't know really why she was never asked, or maybe she was asked and she didn't have an interest in it. I don't know. I don't recall her ever saying specifically. Jay said Dominic had a talk radio show in the early 2000s in Denver. I think I do remember that. John, you say, I know this is random, but when you watch Summer School, don't you think Mark Harmon and Dean Cameron look related? Well, since you brought it up, John, they kind of do. You watched it recently. I hope you guys that like Summer School got in on the Fright Rag shirts. I think the Killer Bunnies shirt was on sale. I actually have a Chainsaw and Dave shirt that I got a while back that I love. And I actually I've said this before, but I'll say it briefly. I actually got to meet both Dean Cameron and Gary Riley, Chainsaw and Dave, at a convention about a couple of years ago, I think. TJ, you say, love, evil, laugh. It's got that self-aware aspect like an early Scream prototype. Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought, too. That would be cute, Texas, if he did sell doggy ice creams that are in the neighborhood. So, a little bit of plot and the special features before I move on this. I'm checking the time. It is 10:34. And someone is slashing people just like killer Jason Voorhees. Could it be that the notorious madman has returned from the grave? Tommy Jarvis has been transferred to a secluded halfway house. Now, whoever is murdering residents in town has moved on to the institution where no one is safe from being sliced and diced. This is the fifth scary installment in the 13th saga. If you like the first four, you'll love Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. Guys, I'm sorry. Reggie is going ape out there. I think it's our neighbor's dog. Hold on just one second. Sorry, guys. Hopefully, that will be the last time during this live stream I have to get up. We have a very mean dog next door that absolutely hates Reggie and drives him crazy because it barks on the other side of the fence and growls. And then Reggie feels threatened and tries to tear the fence apart. So I have to get him in every time. And then that makes the dogs bark in here. And if Steve's already laying down, he gets upset with me for doing a live stream back here when I should be keeping those dogs quiet. But anyway, that's another story for another day. TJ, you say, by the way, I think the Dead Pit guys mentioned it at some point, but it's played like Jason. Even Friday 5, Jason's stunt actor Tom Morgan played as Jason and not a copycat. Yeah, I do think that they presented it that way, and that's the way the stuntman played it. But I think it probably... Huge fans of the series, it probably turned them off at some point. Like I said, it turned me off originally. You know, it wasn't that I didn't find the film entertaining, but I didn't have the appreciation for it and what Danny Steinman was trying to do like I do now. So let's go over some special features here. You get new audio commentary with actors Melanie Kinman, Deborah Voorhees, and Tiffany Helm. So for those of you that like Violet, the one that did the robot dance, you will enjoy that commentary. Audio commentary by director and co-screenwriter Danny Steinman and actors John Shepherd. John Shepherd, that I think that was the guy that played Tommy in this one. And Shavar Ross. Shavar Ross was Reggie the Reckless. Fan audio commentary with filmmakers Adam Green and Joe Lynch. New Beginnings, The Making of Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. Lost Tales from Camp Blood, Part 5. The Crystal Lake Massacres Revisited, Part 2. Theatrical trailer and Still Gallery. And there's Friday the 13th, Part 5. Like I said, one that I have gained all new respect for in the last several years. So... moving right along is Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. This is another one that has a high nostalgia factor for me. And I think this is because this one was, it seemed to be, at the time that I was going to video stores a lot, it seemed to be heavily featured in video stores, at least my local video stores. This was also the third and final entry to have the Tommy Jarvis character. This time around, it was played by Tom Matthews, who I think does an awesome job in this. And I actually got to meet Tom Matthews as well, maybe a couple years ago at a convention. This is also directed by a director I like, Tom McLaughlin, who I believe also did One Dark Night as well, which is one of Steve's favorite movies. C.J. Graham plays Jason this time around. He's the stuntman that plays Jason this time around. This one is a very admirable part of the series. And I've heard Tom McLaughlin do interviews, and he pretty much says that he wanted to insert some more humor into this entry as well. And he does the whole American Express thing before the counselor is killed, where the American Express card ends up floating in the muddy water after Jason dispatches the counselor. And there were some people in the audience when this was shown in the theater that said, American Express, never leave home without it, or something like that. But she actually tries to give this masked maniac money Like we all know, Jason doesn't care about money. What's he going to do with money? He just wants to kill people. So the whole idea of her saying, "You can have this money," and we all know he doesn't care about her money. That whole scene is so outrageously set up that I just find myself chuckling every time I see it. And Tom McLaughlin should be applauded for doing that because not too many Friday the 13th films in the series um, were that overt with the humor. Now, Danny Simon, he had pretty much, like I said, he had a lot of vulgar humor in it, but it still works. Tom McLaughlin might have, his wasn't vulgar, but it was still amusing. A lot of the things that are put into the film, and I think that Tom McLaughlin had a great balance between the horror and the humor. This was one of those films that did it really well. Like I said, Tom Matthews was perfect in the role as Tommy Jarvis. Songs were done by Alice Cooper, which is also awesome for all you Alice Cooper fans. I enjoyed it. What, people might think it's a little bit of overkill having Alice Cooper songs into it, but this was the first time they were ever put into a Friday the 13th movie. And I think it's great that Alice Cooper would, you know, one, have original songs like The Man Behind the Mask be in this, and also uh, some of his other songs in the film as well. And I believe Alice Cooper actually did a music video with Friday the 13th Part 6 stuff in it, if I'm remembering correctly. So for me, this one gets a lot of love for me. Just because I think the characters are great in it, the humor and the horror are balanced really well. The Alice Cooper songs are great. I just think everything works in this entry into the franchise. TJ, you said Part 6 has an old gothic feel to some of the scenes. And I think Tom McLaughlin does that a lot because with One Dark Night, it had a gothic feel as well. The opening cemetery scene is like a UK Hammer film or something out of the OG Dracula. Creative kills, even though the MPAA ruined it. Yeah, I think this is at the point where the MPAA was really starting to crack down on it. I know Kane Hodder talks about how badly Part 7 was butchered. And it essentially was, but I think around the time of Part 6 was when they really started focusing in on this franchise. This seemed to be the bullseye in their target as far as, wanting to cut a bunch of stuff out. Let's see. John, you said Part 6 got me in the series. It was a good payoff to the Tommy Jarvis story. I agree, John. You said they built a good story arc. You could have stopped at 6. And yes, I agree that the series could have very well stopped with 6 and been a great franchise. And if we didn't know anything about these other films, nobody'd be the wiser. But because I do know that there were more after that, I keep thinking if we didn't have Part 7 and on, we wouldn't have the great entry of Kane Hodder into the series. The guy that took the Jason character and made it his own, in my opinion. But we're going to get to that here shortly. A little plot synopsis for this. As a child, Tommy Jarvis did what many others died trying to do. He killed Jason Voorhees, but not really. The mass murder who terrorized the residents of Crystal Lake. But now, years later, Tommy is tormented by the fear that maybe Jason isn't really dead. So Tommy and a friend, played by Horshack from Welcome Back Kotter, um, no less, um, to dig up Jason's grave. Unfortunately for Tommy, and very unfortunately for his friend Hawes, instead of finding a rotting corpse, they discover a well preserved Jason who, with their help, returns from the dead for another bloody rampage. And then this one's got quite a few special features. You get a brand new audio commentary with actors C.J. Graham, Tom Matthews, Vincent Gustafaro, Carrie Noonan, and Cynthia Kania. Audio commentary by writer and director Tom McLaughlin. Audio commentary by Tom McLaughlin, Vincent Gustafaro, and editor Bruce Green. Fan audio commentary with filmmakers Adam Green and Joe Lynch. Jason Lives, The Making of Friday the 13th, Part 6. Jason Lives. Lost Tales of Camp Blood, Part 6. The Crystal Lake Massacres Revisited, Part 3. Meeting Mr. Voorhees. That is the other thing. I'm glad that it mentioned that, because that made me think that this was supposedly the movie that was supposed to introduce Jason's father to fans of the series. And evidently that didn't come to be. But for those of you that read the novelizations of the Friday the 13th series, and were lucky enough to get your hands on them, I remember seeing them in like my local grocery store. You know, you would see the paperback sometimes with magazines and stuff. But my parents wouldn't buy them for me at the time, and I was not old enough to have a job and making the money. They would occasionally buy me books. I'm not saying they would never buy me books, but they were going to buy me every book that I wanted. I believe the book actually expanded on introducing fans to Jason's father. Slash scenes, a theatrical trailer, and still gallery. And on that extra note about the Jason's father, actually, I think in the original story, I don't remember if these scenes got filmed or not, but the caretaker, Martin, I believe is his name, the old guy who takes care of the cemetery and stuff, of course, was actually being paid by Jason's father to keep the grave looking nice and all that. And I think there's actually a scene where Martin is talking to Jason's father. So anyway, there is Jason Lives, Friday the 13th, Part 6. Highly recommend this one if you have not seen it. And if it's been a while, this one's definitely one to pull back out. This one, again, for me, has a very high nostalgia factor. Okay. So, let's see. Johnny said, it sucks because Kane Hodder was the best Jason, but he was also in the least good movies, in my opinion. I could see that, John. I think when Kane Hodder, and we're getting ready to talk about the first Friday the 13th that Kane Hodder was in, Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. I think I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again for those of you that haven't heard it, and hopefully those of you that have already heard it won't mind me telling it once again. But many moons ago, when me and my cousin Jim Bob, you guys are probably gonna laugh, Dana has a cousin named Jim Bob, and she has a cousin named Jed. But yes, actually his name is James Robert, but growing up we always called him Jim Bob, and I still refer to him as Jim Bob. But anyway, he was a very I don't want to say a privileged child, but his mom got him pretty much anything he wanted growing up. And my parents are and were great parents to me growing up, but they weren't going to get me everything under the sun, you know. So I didn't even know there were such horror magazines as Gore Zone and Fangoria. And then one time, Jim Bob was over at my granny's. We were both over at granny's at the same time. And he pulls out all these horror magazines. I'm like, oh, it's the Mecca. It's the Holy Grail. I did not even know they had horror magazines. And he's like, oh, yeah, he's showing me this stuff. And he actually showed me one for Friday it was a Fangoria issue that had stuff on Friday the 13th, Part 7. And there was an article about Kane Hodder. I'm like, he plays Jason? Awesome. I mean, it was only a little bit later that I discovered he didn't play Jason in all of them. He played him in Part 7 on. So, except when they fucked him over on Jason, Freddy versus Jason, which I'm not gonna go too much into that controversy, but I've pretty much had a rant on that. But this was my Jason. This was the introduction to my Jason, the Jason that essentially I grew up on, because he played Jason multiple times. The other stunt actors did not. So, and I really, back then when I was a kid, I wasn't really noticing those little nuances that Kane Hodder does, the turning of the head, the stare, the heavy breathing. Now I get that stuff, and I've seen enough interviews with Kane Hodder where he talks about these different things and he tells these different stories. Kane Hodder is another one that I got to meet in '09. God, it seems so long ago. I guess it is. '09 at Scarefest in Lexington. And he was really cool. Of course, people said, oh, he didn't choke you. I was like, no, I mean, I don't know. Do you have to request that? I mean, the picture is of him, with his arm around me, and like, you can see how big and muscular this guy is. And he was really cool to meet. He liked my accent and everything. But I think now I have an even greater respect and a greater appreciation, and consider Kane Hodder really inspiring now that I know what caused him to get severely burned. And, the hell he had to go through after that happened, because the hospital that he was in originally was not a burn hospital, which is fortunately where he got to go, but not soon enough to avoid him having a lot of torture. But again, if you have not seen To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story, I highly, highly recommend that. That one and the Smoke and Mirrors Tom Savini documentary are both very awesome documentaries. So now I want to meet Kane Hodder again and tell him how inspired I was by his story, stories that I had not heard prior to that coming out, that documentary coming out, and I'm sure a lot of other people were not privy to as well. So a little bit of the plot around this one. Ever since homicidal maniac Jason Voorhees got trapped in chains at the bottom of Crystal Lake, the nearby summer camp has operated without a hitch, without a murder. But one of this season's happy campers has brought along a deadly secret. Tina Shepard can see the future and levitate objects. Her doctor knows just how dangerous telekinesis can be. But he's out to exploit her, not help her. And now it's too late. Tina has accidentally unchained Jason from his watery grave, and the bloodbath is underway. Tina's special powers are her only hope for survival, but what chance does even a telekinetic teenage girl have against an axe-wielding maniac? Now, the only thing that didn't truly make sense about this movie, for me is the timeline. The timeline seemed a little thin, little paper thin, like I'm talking super thin. Because, as we know, at the end of part 6, Jason was at the bottom of the lake with chains on him, courtesy of Tommy Jarvis. Okay, so how is it that very young Tina Shepard becomes angry with her father? Jason's in the lake, chained up. And she gets angry with her father because he's an alcoholic and he slaps her mother around when he gets drunk. And she goes out in the boat and he comes out there and said, "Please, baby, I'm sorry, come back." And he's standing on the dock and she says, "I hate you, I wish you were dead." And then her powers cause the dock to collapse in on her father. And then you see her crying, "No, Daddy, no." And then she wakes up and she's teenage Tina. So I just don't know how that timeline of really young Tina could mesh with the timeline with Tommy Jarvis and all that stuff he did. That always never seemed to make sense to me. But, that's a small thing and I can let it go. It's just a confusing thing. And I don't know if any of the rest of you guys noticed that little, I don't know if you'd call it a discrepancy, or things seemed kind of out of order or didn't make sense how they fit together. That To me, that would have meant that when Tommy Jarvis put Jason in the lake in chains, that would have had to have been like maybe late 60s, early 70s, and it's obvious that that was not the time period that it happened in for young Tina Shepard to be able to make her father die when Jason was already in the lake, chained up. So feel free to disagree with me on that or explain it away or whatever. So this was also directed by John Carl Buechler, who sadly is no longer with us. He passed away here in the last year or two, I believe. And maybe longer than that, but I'm thinking it was the last year or two. But anyway, John Carl Buechler was really instrumental in getting Kane Hodder into this movie because I believe they had both worked on Prison together, and I believe that was the one before this one. And Buechler saw what a great talent Kane was, and so when he was set to direct part 7, he asked Kane, "Hey, would you like to come play this character?" And a franchise staple was born at that point. So, again, this is the nostalgia factor is very high for this one, mainly because, for me anyway, it introduced Kane Hodder to the world as Jason Voorhees. And by golly, he stuck it out until they fucked him over, sadly. So, special features. We got audio commentary by director John Carl Buechler and actor Kane Hodder. Audio commentary by John Carl Buechler and actors Laura Park Lincoln and Kane Hodder. Jason's Destroyer, The Making of Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Slash Scenes, Mind Over Matter, The Truth About Telekinesis. Makeover by Maddie, Need a Little Touch-Up Work My Ass. And I really like this short featurette because I hadn't really seen a lot of about Maddie, or the character that played Maddie. So this was a really cool featurette for me. You also get the theatrical trailer and a still gallery. This also has one of the great bitchy characters in Melissa, um, who I just thought was like, damn, this girl is the ultimate bitch. Rich bitch at that, too. Um, I love Laura Park Lincoln in this as the telekinetic Tina Shepard. Um, Another funny little side note, which I'm sure all of you in here know already, is this is referred to as fry gay in some circles because many of the male actors in the film are gay. Uh, One of them being Kevin Blair. I think he goes by Kevin Spiritus now. Is shown there with Laura Park Lincoln. He's a nice looking dude, but he's gay, and several other of the actors, the male actors in the film, are gay. This one's referred to as the gayest Friday the 13th ever. But, despite that, I'm not really interested in the gay aspect of it. I mean, if the guys are gay, they're gay, I'm fine with that. But I really, like the storyline. I like the telekinetic Tina going up against Jason Voorhees. I love the scene where she makes his mask pop off and you see that face underneath. It's awesome. I love the shots of Jason from the back, and he's clearly rotting away because, he's been in that damn lake for a long time. So just everything, again, seemed to work in this film, or it worked for me. So that is Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. And we're going to move right along to Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, which, in some ways, even though I like it, in my opinion, it was the beginning of the end for the series. I enjoyed it for what it was, but this was when they started that trend of taking Jason out of Camp Crystal Lake, taking the victims out of Camp Crystal Lake and putting them in new surroundings. And I just don't think it worked quite as well. Johnny said prior to dying and weekend at Bernie's, Bernie got whackered by Jason. He certainly did. But he deserved it because he was an asshole creep in the movie. Jay said, John, you're cracking me up. Liz, a little bit after 11, guys, and I will totally understand if some of you have to kind of bug out of here a little bit early. I'm, again, going to try not to spend too awfully much time on the rest of them, but I'm kind of giving you an overview of each one of these. So let's do a little plot synopsis on Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, which a lot of people said it's actually not Jason Takes Manhattan, it's Jason Takes a Cruise Ship, which literally is where most of the action takes place. So the Big Apple's in big trouble as indestructible psycho fiend Jason Voorhees hits the road to New York City and paints the town red. After a shocking return from beyond the grave, the diabolical Jason ships out aboard a teen-filled love boat bound for New York, which he soon transforms into the ultimate voyage of the damned. Then one of his terrified victims escapes into the nightmarish maze of Manhattan's subways and sewers, only to confront Jason one final time. The imposing Kane Hodder plays Jason with unholy relish in this unholy 8th installment of the horror series. And Kane Hodder, again, does an excellent job. There is no problem with his performance. really, there are no problems on my end with the kills in the movie. The problem for me is, and you guys might be thinking, well, damn, Dana, what do you want? Them to have, like, forever be at Camp Crystal Lake? I just think the films were better when they were either at Crystal Lake or in, wooded, secluded areas. I just didn't think the whole Jason thing worked as well as Manhattan, where you've got a bunch of killers there anyway, and mentally ill people and gangs and all kinds of stuff. Like, leave Jason out in the woods, where people are more secluded. I think it's a lot scarier that way. TJ, he said Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason takes the ferry. John, you say, yeah, I didn't like Jason Takes Manhattan at all. I always pass it when watching a marathon. It's not bad, I guess. It's not bad, but it's not all good either. I just didn't like some of the choices the filmmakers made in it. Like I said, Kane Hodder did an excellent job. Even if this was a huge piece of shit, which I don't think it's a huge piece of shit, I just think it's just a mediocre movie in the series. Where I just feel like you've got Kane Hodder in this playing an excellent Jason, and you don't give him a lot to do in this. Maybe Kane Hodder felt different, but I thought they kind of cheated him, because it kind of would focus so much on these visions of Jason as a boy, a little boy, and you can't really have Kane Hodder playing that. So it's kind of like he was overshadowed for so long, and really, I think in the end, was it worth it that they did that? That they wasted Kane Hodder's great talent by trying to do something different? Why monkey around with a formula when the formula works? If the formula quits working, then maybe you need to alter the formula a little bit. But if it's still working, why would you do that? But I guess that's probably a question for Rob Hedden, who wrote and directed this particular one. And special features on this, we got audio commentary with director Rob Hedden, audio commentary with actors Scott Reeves, Jensen Daggett, and Kane Hodder. New York has a new problem, the making of Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Slash scenes, a gag reel, theatrical trailer, and still gallery. And that is Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, or Jason Takes a Cruise Ship, or Jason Takes the Ferry. So the next one is one that I do recall watching at the theater. Is probably the one and only one in the Friday the 13th series that I got to see at the theater. And that is Jason Goes to Hell. This one is called Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. I think they were actually planning on making Freddy versus Jason not long after this, and for, I guess, a myriad of reasons, they ended up not doing that. John, you say Part 7 is the final true camp type movie. Yes, John, exactly. You say after that it's all over the place. Yep. Jay said because artists need to be different, LOL. Texas, you say Jason hails a cab. Jason goes to the delicatessen. Yeah, we could go on and on with that, couldn't we? So, a lot of people don't like Jason Goes to Hell. I like it. I don't love it, but I like it. I think Adam Marcus did a decent job with it. Again, Kane Hodder is awesome in it. Sean Cunningham produced it. You've got John D. LeMay, who was from Friday the 13th, the series, in this. Aaron Gray is in this. Carrie Keegan. Stephen Culp, Stephen Williams. Um, you still got Harry Manfredini doing the music. But this is at the point where New Line Cinema kind of took over the franchise. And I can't really say that that was beneficial to the series because I feel like that once New Line, they were fine with the the Nightmare on Elm Street series. But I think when they really got their foot in the door with Friday 13th, I think that's where Friday 13th really went off the rails and went into realms that it really, in my opinion, did not need to go into. It opened doors that didn't really need to be open. They should have stayed closed. Um, and I'm going to talk about one in the series next that I really do hate. And it's not the remake. um, so, let's give a little plot synopsis for this. Jason Voorhees, the living, breathing essence of evil, is back for another fierce fling. Tracked down and blown to bits by special FBI task force, Jason, everyone assumes, is finally dead. But everyone assumes wrong. Jason has been reborn with the bone-chilling ability to assume the identity of anyone he touches. Which, again, kind of left Kane Hodder out of the loop and with not a lot to do in this film. Except when they would show like a mirror image of Jason. That was Kane Hodder. But the other things like the morgue attendant eating Jason's heart and spewing up black stuff, and then him taking on the Jason persona. Kane Hodder is actually seen in scenes surrounding that one, and then he gets killed off. He I guess plays one of like the SWAT team guys, and actually gets to utter the line about Jason being a pussy. So I'm sure that was fun for him. But again, I think that that Adam Marcus maybe sidestepped the whole idea behind why we love this series. He made a decent movie. Like I said, I don't hate it. But it has several distinct weaknesses in it. And if you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, and the whole thing about Jason having to be reborn out of a Voorhees, and the thing about the evil little Jason thing going up Aaron Gray's vagina and getting reborn into himself. It's like, I don't know why that was needed. You know, why did they have to go there? Why couldn't they just bring Jason back like they always have? He's obviously a supernatural entity that can never die, so just bring him back like normal, like you have 8 other times before, so, or maybe 7 if you don't count part 5. So, not the Friday 13th entry that I was hoping it was going to be. I had hope at the beginning because this chick ends up going to Crystal Lake, and I'm like, great, they're going to go back to Crystal Lake. No, that's not the case. She's an actual policewoman, SWAT team member or whatever that's doing flips and stuff like that. She's just a decoy to lure Jason so the rest of the SWAT team can blow him up. But his heart still beats, so therefore you have not completely destroyed him. And then they have all this nonsense about being reborn through a Voorhees woman, and it's like, I don't need this kind of stuff. So, but the John D. LeMay storyline of him uh, being with Carrie Keegan's character at one point, and them breaking up, and now she has a baby and she's with a real asshole, a guy that does a, I guess, like kind of like a reality crime show, but he's a real douche, and she just can't see it. And we all know she really belongs back with John D. LeMay's character. Um, you have a little humor with Rusty, um, the the woman that owns the restaurant, and they're making like Jason burgers and stuff like that. So they're really making money off of the whole Jason Voorhees thing. Um, but there was the other thing that kind of bugged me about this, even though I know there's nudity and sex in pretty much any of the Friday the 13th movies, I just felt like they took the sex thing a little too far. And I'm not prudish by any means, any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying, I think this was a little bit more vulgar and overt. The scene of the couple in the tent that get split in half, or the woman gets split in half pretty much, and then the guy gets killed. But that whole group of people I really didn't like. They really turned me off, because for one thing, they all got wet or got in the lake or whatever they did, and they were all naked, and there's only one guy and two girls, and only one of the girls is with this guy. It's like, it reminds me of when my brother was a lot younger, about the time he graduated from high school. He had a bunch of buddies over that he was working with at the Wendy's restaurant. And again, I'm not trying to be a prude, but sometimes I don't understand the younger generation, and my brother is 6 years younger than me. Um, so he had girls and guys invited, and one of the girls was going out with one of the guys that showed up for this camp out, and it stormed like you wouldn't believe that night that they were trying to camp out. So eventually they had to come back to my mom and dad's house. I was still living at home at the time. And I was just mortified because two of these girls, I think there were only two girls, and the rest were guys. And one of the girls was dating one of the guys, but she wasn't, good Lord, I hope she wasn't dating them all. But so anyway, the girls pretty much, everybody was drenched. And my mom offered to dry all their clothes and give them some clothes from around the house for them to put on while their original clothes were getting dried. And granted, my mom gave them pants and shirts and everything. These two girls chose to wear a shirt and their panties, and that was it. And they ran around the house in front of my dad like that. Then they went in my brother's bedroom with all these boys with just panties and a shirt on and no bras. And they were, like I said, they were prancing around in front of my dad. So that kind of stuff just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I'm sorry if I sound like a prude, but that's just how I feel about it. I'm not super religious or anything like that. It's just my morals at work, I guess. So when I saw, the thing with my brother's friends happened after I'd seen this movie, obviously. But, like, now when I watch it, I'm thinking, oh, that's just like those girls running around in their panties and shirts, because that's what these girls were doing. But the one girl, her shirt was open, her boobs were out, and she may have not even had any panties on in the movie. And it's just like, do people have no shame? They just go around in front of other people's boyfriends and like in my case, they went around in front of my dad and then pranced around in front of boys in my brother's bedroom. It's like I just don't understand that at all. Um, Johnny say Leslie Jordan, the comedian, is in this. He works in a crappy diner. Yes, he does. He does an excellent job. TJ, you saying Jason Goes to Hell. Allison Smith, who played waitress Vicky, played Annie on Broadway when she was younger, like Shelley Bruce, who was in The Burning. From Broadway star to low budget horror. LOL. Right. Jay, you say so many comments I must keep to myself. No, Jay, you don't have to keep the comments to yourself. You go right ahead. Texas, you say you could have got your machete out of the closet and solved that problem. No, I didn't want to kill them. It's just like I just did not. I thought it was very immoral to do what they did. But anyway, I'm trying to see what Brandon is doing here. But I'm not sure what he's doing. But I want to, you guys got to get to bed, and I don't need to be going on and on about stuff. So let me give some insight into the special features on this one. You get both unrated and theatrical versions. You get a new 2K scan to enter positive, new audio commentary by director Adam Marcus and author Peter Bracke, new interviews with Adam Marcus and actor Kane Hodder, additional TV footage with new optional audio commentary with Adam Marcus and Peter Bracke, audio commentary with Adam Marcus and screenwriter Dean Lorey, and a theatrical trailer. And that is Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, which we also, at the end, have Freddy's glove come up and the Freddy laughter, and he pulls Jason's mask down. That is actually Kane Hodder's hand in the Freddy glove, though. He insisted that he do that. Okay. So let's move on to one that I hate, and this is one that I will skip over when I'm having a marathon, even though, bless his heart, Kane Hodder's in this one too. And that is Jason X, Evil Gets an Upgrade. And let me tell you why I hate this one and why I have zero nostalgia for this one. For one thing, it tried too hard. It's like, it was like, what? It was almost to me like a slap in the face to fans of the series, because they're in space and they have a simulation to try to trick Jason. And it's girls who get naked and say, oh, let's get in our sleeping bags. Let's do this, let's do that. And it was just so stupid. And then Jason, of course, comes and does the traditional sleeping bag kill from part 7. A sleeping bag kill that a lot of people appreciate, but I did not appreciate it at all in this context because it was just stupid. The girls were stupid. That whole simulation was stupid. And I don't think Jason would have fell for it anyway. Now, the girl that gets her face frozen and smashed and it breaks apart, that was kind of cool. But it still doesn't save the movie for me. I didn't like the fact that they were in space. I thought that was dumb. I didn't like the android or whatever she was that was in there. I didn't much care for any of the characters in this one. I thought the jokes were lame. For instance, when they're playing that virtual reality game and Jason kills one of the guys and puts him on what looks like a giant screw, and there's a comment that he got screwed. So just a very, in my opinion, weak entry into the franchise. But I will give a little plot synopsis for this. In the year 2455, on a routine training mission, a team of students is about to learn a terrifying lesson. Through the years, Jason Voorhees has claimed over 200 victims. Now, the legendary killer from Crystal Lake has found himself aboard a spaceship, and a little thing like zero gravity will not stop horror's most vicious killer. This was produced by Sean Cunningham's son, Noel Cunningham. It was directed by Jim Isaac, and it was written by Todd Farmer, which I lay most of the blame on the lame dialogue, etc., on Todd Farmer. I could be wrong, but the interviews I've seen with Todd Farmer, it's like he is one of those fanboys that thinks he knows it all and that he's made the ultimate film. And feel free to, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But again, that's just my opinion. So, yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on this one because, yeah, it's just bad. So, special features, in case you're wondering. You get new interviews with producers Sean S. Cunningham and Noel Cunningham. So, actually, Sean and his son were both producers on this. And actors Kane Hodder and Christy Angus. Audio commentary with director Jim Isaac, writer Todd Farmer, and Noel Cunningham. The Many Lives of Jason Voorhees, a documentary on the history of Jason, by any means necessary to make him Jason X, and a theatrical trailer. And that's Jason X. Watch it watch it if you want, but user or watcher or rather viewer discretion is advised on this one, and not because of the violence, just because of how bad this film is. Okay, let's see. Curly Jaws, you say Jason X was amazing. Well, your generation, I would expect that, Curly Jaws, and I respect your opinion. I really do. You say Jason X could have been a franchise in itself. Not a franchise I would have watched, though. Johnny, you say, Dana, you should see The Maddening. It's a 90s Burt Reynolds horror movie. I'll have to look that one up. Is it readily available? I mean, is this something you can see on Tubi or YouTube or Prime or anything like that? TJ, you say Jason X is a movie you have at a horror movie marathon because they know the audience will be yelling all through the showing, huh? Right. So, moving along to another one that I was really excited for, but I think by the time they actually did it, the time for this movie had come and gone. And that is Freddy versus Jason. They simply waited too long to do this. And they fucked over Kane Hodder by replacing him with Ken Kersinger, a fellow stuntman, in the movie as Jason. Didn't replace Freddy. They let Robert Englund in it, but they replaced Kane Hodder. This one had potential, but it fell short on so many levels, and like I said, they waited too long. If they were going to wait this long, they never should have made it, because the quality of the actors in the movie was terrible. The plot, although the plots are never strong in Friday the 13th, and not always are they strong in Nightmare on Elm Street. But this was a very weak, paper-thin plot with no substance, terrible actors in these parts. It's like, why in the hell would you put someone like Kelly Rowland in this? And It was directed by Ronnie Yu, for goodness sakes. It could have been a lot better film. I don't know who fucked this film up so bad, but somebody did. Um, so, a little plot synopsis on this. Two Titans of Terror going at it mano a machete. They're going to kill each other a lot. The horror and wicked fun begins when Freddy realizes he can't haunt dreams because folks no longer fear him, so he enlists Jason to do a little killing on his behalf on Elm Street. Presto, the fear is back and so is Freddy. One problem, Jason isn't about to stop offing people. And another, Freddy isn't about to let Jason rule Elm Street. This means war. Freddy versus Jason. Winner takes all. And that's the plot. Very sad way to end the franchise, in my opinion. I could go on and on about why I dislike the film, but I won't bore you with that, and I will let you make your own decisions on, or your own, I guess your own decisions on what you get out of it. Perhaps there's some of you, like maybe old Curly Jaws, would like it a lot better than me, but it is sad that this is probably the final entry in Friday the 13th series that we're going to see. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that the nails are already in the coffin at this point. Yep. I knew it, old Curly Jaws. You say, I love Freddy versus Jason. To me, it's better than the first time on Elm Street film. Jay, you say, tried watching Jason X and tapped out. It's awful. My wife was shocked. It was worse than the usual trash he's subjected to. And Jay, you say, Ronnie Yu's Ride with the White Hair is fantastic. Yeah, Ronnie Yu made some fantastic films. I just don't know if maybe it was studio pressure or what happened. I can't really say, so I couldn't put all the blame squarely on Ronnie Yu's shoulders. Because as we all know, when the studios get involved, they make a mess of things. Usually, that's what happens. It's too bad he had to do things like this to work in Hollywood. Yeah, exactly. And he had to do things their way. It was their way or the highway. And TJ, you say, I wonder if they did Freddy versus Jason now. With all the superhero movies and shows being so popular, it would have been more successful and started a new franchise of horror versus movies. Yeah, that's possible. But like I said, I don't think I would have wanted to see that either. Because again, as a fan, I think the time for Freddy versus Jason had come and gone even when this one came out. And that's, in my opinion, the big reason, the huge glaring reason why this movie is such a failure to me. Bride of Chucky, old Curly Jaws. Texas, you say Jason versus old Curly Jaws. I'd pay for that. I believe I would too, rather than these last couple of films I talked about. So, even though I don't care for this one, I did have a fun time going to see it at its premiere with my cousin Jed. And I dressed like Freddy and he dressed like Jason. And there was a Japanese guy that was sitting next to me. And I'm not making fun of this Japanese guy at all. But he just was like, he was in his kimono and everything. And I think his girlfriend or somebody was there with him. And he saw my fake Freddy glove. He was like, oh, can I see your Freddy glove? And I'm probably getting his accent all wrong. But, he was just astounded. And so I was like, yeah, sure. And he just thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I did have fun at the premiere. The movie just saddens me on a lot of levels. So, as far as special features, you have commentary by director Ronnie Yu, actors Robert Englund as Freddy and Ken Kersinger as Jason, deleted and alternate scenes, including the original opening and ending, featurette gallery covering the film's development, art direction, makeup effects, stunt work, and more, visual effects exploration with the creative team, publicity and promotion vignettes, um, El Nino, How Can I Live, music video, theatrical trailer, and TV spots. Freddy vs. Jason. Watch at your own risk. Okay. Now, yes, I am going to cover the remake briefly. And I say briefly not because I hate the remake, only because it's been a little while since I've seen it. And really, this one is so new that it really doesn't hold any nostalgia factor for me. But since I was covering the rest of them in the series, I might as well cover this one. Texas, you say, let's see. Let me back it up here. John, you say Friday, part 4, Jason would eat his lunch. Jason in this is a clunking dunce. TJ, you say Texas, where do I buy a ticket? LOL. Oh, Curly Jaws, you say, I remember hearing about Freddy versus Jason being a court case film where they're in a trial. That's interesting. Texas, you say, LOL, we'll have to find a theater. And you say, Catherine Isabel and Freddy versus Jason is what gets me. Curly Jaws, you say, the remake was the second best one. Now, I wouldn't go that far, but again, Curly Jaws, you're entitled to your opinion. But I do think this remake has merits. It's not one of the horrible remakes to have come out. And it kind of takes the franchise in a new direction, a direction that I don't think we've been to before, which is interesting. I think Derek Mears does an admirable job at playing Jason Voorhees. So a little plot synopsis on this one. College kids seeking a weekend of kicks have made a horrible mistake. They've come to party at Crystal Lake. And 2, you get a return to Crystal Lake as well. The deadly domain of killer Jason Voorhees. Terror goes to extremes in this reimagining of the Jason legend for today's horror fan. Enter for the first time the subterranean lair that is Jason's den of fear. See him discover the mask that hides his deformed face. Experience a whole new level of fright and terror. So, this is, like I said, a decent entry into the Friday the 13th franchise. I think it's worth a watch or 2 or 3. I didn't, honestly, I try not to be closed-minded, but after the mess that was Jason X and Freddy versus Jason, I didn't hold out a lot of positive hope for the Jason or the Friday the 13th remake. But I'm glad I gave it a try. I'm glad I gave it a chance. Steve and I actually did a commentary for this one. I don't think I've turned it into like with the movie and the commentary. I don't even know if it was one that we gave to CK for the Dead Pit site, but I'm going to go over the special features real quick and then read through some of the comments that y'all have been putting up there. And then we'll try to get this thing wrapped up because it is almost midnight, and I know that you guys have got to get to bed. I know I do because I'm yawning right now. So you get both the original theatrical version and the extended unrated cut, hacking back and slashing forward, terror trivia track with picture-in-picture, the 7 best kills, the rebirth of Jason Voorhees, and slash scenes. And you have the Friday the 13th remake, which I think is worthy of a watch or 2 or 3, and thankfully not one of those quote-unquote horrible remakes. Also in this set, I will say that you get a Friday the 13th bonus, a collection of bonus material, which is this, which you get new interviews, new location featurette, some documentaries, and just all kinds of different things. You actually get 2 bonus discs there. And you also get a booklet, as you can see here. It's got a lot of pictures in it. And this is actually, I believe, maybe this essay is written purely by Michael Gingold. But I was just seeing if there was like, could be wrong, but I think Michael Gingold did write the essay. So you've got a nice little essay in here and a bunch of full color glossy pictures, which is great. If you want to try to pick up that set if you don't already have it, or if you have 4K capabilities, you can always hold out for the next box set that I know is coming that will have 4Ks of all the films. And TJ, you say, what's the worst for a final Freddy movie? Freddy versus Jason or the Elm Street remake? I would have to say in that case it's the Elm Street remake. Curly Jaws, you say part 8, still my all-time favorite. Gotcha. You said the 09 one took the franchise to a new generation, in my personal opinion. Texas, you say, my problem with the Freddy remake is how did Jason learn to become a pot farmer? I don't know. But you don't mess with Jason's pot, do you? TJ, you said the remake would have been a good new beginning, but too bad that didn't happen. John, you say the remake had a pretty good opening, some genuine jump scares in the theater. Curly Jaws, you say, I would also put the remake over the original. I do like the original, but the remake had the first full original film done within a few minutes. You say done better. Okay. TJ, you say the Friday remake was okay, putting in things from the OG series in a condensed form. He has the sack mask, then the hockey mask, and the opening turned the first movie into a quick prologue. Texas, you say, I'm probably only one of the few people who like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Jackie Earl Haley rules. I agree that Jackie Earl Haley rules, but just not in this movie and not as that character. He should have never been allowed or asked to play Freddy Krueger. It just did not work for me at all. But it's okay that you like it. John, you said a remake trailer with him coming down with the machete with a sack mask was awesome. Curly Jaws, you want to know where I would take the franchise? Are you talking about the Friday the 13th franchise? I don't know. I really don't know if the franchise could survive anymore, personally. So if it was left up to me, I would just want to stop it where it's at. I think these lawsuits and stuff like that are going to go on so long that there's probably just only a slim chance that there's ever going to be another Friday the 13th film. I think the golden age of Friday the 13th films has come and gone anyway. I think the golden age of Friday the 13th films was in the 80s. And, they could have stopped before the 90s and it wouldn't have hurt me any. So, just my opinion on that. Let's see, the CGI in the Elm Street remake, yikes, LOL. Curly Jaws, you say, I would take Jason to the Hood. Johnny say, God almighty, I can't take that Nightmare remake. I tried it again last year. It's bad. I have to agree with you on that, John. So, Aaron, did you watch it all? You said that was a hell of a show, Dana. Well, uh, I guess that's a compliment. I did go on over 3 hours, but that wasn't just the films. I had my little rant and all that stuff. Um, and Old Curly Jaws is saying the Elm Street remake is a classic, which from Old Curly Jaws generational aspects, I would highly, I would highly expect that from him. Um, and I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I'm just saying it's not for me, and I don't care for it. So Aaron, you say, yeah, I was lurking in the background. Well, I see that. So, did CK hear me talking about stuff about the Dead Pit show? Did he get pissed off or something? Because I didn't even see him in here tonight unless he was just lurking and not chatting. Um, I hope I didn't piss him off, because I'm not going to go on and on about this. But pissing anybody off was not my intention. I was just. Steve tells me I don't need to make points sometimes, that nobody cares if I make a point or not. But when something bugs me, I say something about it. And maybe I shouldn't have been so public about it. But like I said, I didn't mention the names of people. That's for you guys in here to try to figure out or not figure out or whatever. I was just venting about things. And again, people can do whatever they want with their respective live streams and shows. I'm just saying things that bother me personally. They may not matter a hill of beans to anybody else. Um, Still going strong, Ben. But I am really going to have to get to bed, and Brandon is whining, so I think that means he wants me to come into the living room, and maybe he'll settle down and quit whining. And, I hate to talk about this while I'm on here, but I smelled something kind of stinky, so I'm hoping that he didn't, leave me a little surprise on the floor. No, sadly, Old Curly Jaws, I haven't watched the Bye Bye Man yet. I haven't actually, for anybody that listens to the Eurocult show, I basically was, when we were going over stuff that we have watched since the last show we had, all I could say was I've watched a lot of pieces of different things. Bye bye, TJ. Good night to you too. Thanks for being here, and thank all the rest of you guys for being here. And again, Aaron, Wes, CK, and Uncle Bill, I hope that I did not piss you guys off. Totally not my intention. But I think I'm going to get off of here while the getting's good and skedaddle on out of here. You too, John. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, I'm going to call it a night, and I'll be back here soon with something hopefully fun and entertaining. Thank you, Texas. Bye, guys.